46.6 kilometers to go. 6:58 is the gap to one lone man, Martin Kohler of the BMC squad, the Swiss rider. Got a gap of about 8.5 minutes, and to be fair, he's done a very, very good job at the moment. He's been staying away for quite a long time. The gap was about 8 minutes, 30 kilometers ago. So he's been riding very hard indeed. He was quoted several times in the press in the last couple of days, saying how hard it was going to be for him to resume racing, and he had to do something about it, get his head in order. Maybe today he's decided today is the day I'm going to get out there and get my confidence back by attacking, because he has gone off the front and doing a fine job. Sean next to me, I think Kohler's surprised possibly a few of the director sportives, thinking that we've got to up the pace now.
Yes, I think he is putting in a better performance than they would have expected from him, because you know, still 6:55, 45 kilometers to finish. It's coming down, but coming down very slowly. But considering how the group is riding, the peloton is going at a very fast pace over the last 25 kilometers plus, and we can see here, you know, getting a drink, fresh drinks from the cars is proving difficulty for the riders at the moment.
44 kilometres to go, or just over 44.5 kilometres to go. This guy, Martin Kohler. Best result this year has been in the team time trial in this year's Giro d'Italia, although he did get a top 15, I think it was, in one of the stages of the Tour of the Basque Country. We're almost upon our first section of Strade Bianche. The white roads today start at 37 kilometres to go, or maybe just a little outside of that. So we're not too far away from seeing a little bit of dusty action, I would imagine, here on the Giro d'Italia. This morning, Tyler Farrar did not start. Understandably, his best friend was Wouter Wayland. But overnight, the entire Leopard Trek team decided that they discussed it, and they decided as riders they were not going to ride any more of the Giro d'Italia, and nobody can blame them for that whatsoever. So they will take no further part in this race. Nobody else today leaving the Giro. Visconti on the far right hand side, just coming up to do the water carrying at the back, is Angel Fioso, who managed to collide with the big jersey of David Miller. Hope we see a replay of that, actually, for those of you who are joining us on International. It'll be quite fun to see. Essentially, Vicchioso and Miller were both going for this bonus sprint. 6 seconds of bonus sprint, remember, available. There's Max Gandry in the BMC car, talking to Martin Kohler, director sportive for BMC. Here we are. This is where we are on the parcours today. I've gone over the Seraglio, and we are going to enter our first section of Strade Bianche very shortly, which is where the second climb of the day is, the Croci del Ferghini, coming with just 37 kilometers to go. Well, a couple of riders tried to get away from the peloton and get some sort of break going, but they were given short shrift by the Garmin Cervelos. Kozinski, Giordani, Armandia, Marzoli, Nocentini gave it a go. But here at the front of the race, this man's doing a very fine job. 6:44 is still the gap. He's very strong. I was going to say, yeah, he's extremely strong today, Sean, is Martin Kohler, because he's keeping everybody at break. As you've just pointed out, nobody could even stop for a natural break. They just have to keep going.
No, there's very much action, big time action in the main bunch here, as we can see. The team of Miller pushing it on here, and having to push on because the advantage 6:41 at the moment and 43.7 kilometers. It's getting a little bit, you know, into the stage of the race where it should be coming down a bit more, but it's not, and they're having to push on. And a lot of the riders' movement here, we can see, starting to get more and more nervous, as we can see the Saxo Bank riders looking about here, of course trying to keep Contador in a good position, and that's what we will see from here on to get onto this section of unsurfaced and uncovered road. And we can see in the rear end the bunch as well, get to the cars to get some fresh drinks. It's a difficult one because it's going at such a fast rate. It's causing problems everywhere. Front end of the bunch, the riders have to push on. The rear end, the ones who have to do the water carrying, are also in difficulty. But our man out in front here, Martin Kohler, is doing a very good job. As we can see, 6.5+ minutes at the moment. He's proven a stronger rider, certainly for me, and I think for a lot of the teams as well.
Yeah, I think he has given a bit of a surprise, actually. Maybe inspired today, but certainly giving it a good go. The riders who may shine today, those who have very good bike handling skills, because I tell you what, if they're kicking off in the same way as they'll have to in the last 30 kilometres, I think there's going to be all sorts of fireworks on these sections of unsurfaced road, the Strada Bianchi as they call them here in Italy, white roads with gravel surface. Because at the moment, they've got a lot of time to make up if they want to do anything about winning the stage today. There are some riders who will definitely want to be going for the stage win. Others will just be trying to protect their position in the overall classification. But there is 6:33 to shut down and 43 kilometres to go and 3 sections of Strada Bianchi. It's going to be interesting. Very interesting indeed. Matt Wilson does the work on the front for Garmin Cervelo. And it is difficult situations, trying to get back, trying to get drinks bottles. It's not happening in the moment. Very difficult indeed. Daniele Hondo for Lampre on the front, trying to keep Alessandro Petacchi in the points jersey out of trouble. 6:30 the gap, just over 40 kilometres to go. Well, just as we went on a break, look what happens. Load of people coming together in the centre of the peloton, all low speed. Johnny Hugeland going down, Cyril Dissel also being involved in that, Favilli of Farnese Vini also in that group going down. Dennis van Vinden, a lot of them having troubles. I think they actually collided with each other. They've tried to change gear, or were changing gear at the time, and then managed to jam their gears in. There is Dennis van Vinden. Favilli was the rider just getting off. That is Cyril Dessel. And looking less than chuffed, one would say, at the side of the road. I need a new bike. With 40 kilometres to go, they know that the absolutely crucial sections are coming up. Lampre had Petacchi as last man at the front, protecting Michele Scarponi. New bike on the road for is it Novkirienka involved in this? Number of riders being brought down, but all of them just managing to collide, but thankfully low speed one there, Sean, and there's little gaps approaching all over the place. I'm not quite sure what they'll do. Are they chase back on hard, or they don't seem to be incredibly into it at the moment?
No, and Cyril Dessel is not into it. He's standing there with his bike, and the car is taking a long time to get to him, but he's not in any panic whatsoever. He doesn't seem to be too worried if he gets back into the front end of the bunch or not. But some of the other riders, of course, you know, the ones who need to be up here, they would get into a panic situation, but I don't think we see any of those riders there who's going to be fighting for the general classification of this race, or having a chance to go for some chance of getting on the podium in today's finish.
6 minutes and 3 seconds. The gap is becoming slightly less now, with 40 kilometres to go. Still healthy for Martin Kohler. Well, the weather today is absolutely fantastic today, but this is what it was like last year. Well, you remember with Vincenzo Nibali and Ivan Basso crashing on the way into the white road section, the pink jersey on the shoulders of Vincenzo Nibali at that time, and that's what it was like last year. Just look at the Gazzelli in the middle of the shot there. Tony Martin, there is Alexander Vinokurov. Damiano Cunego blinking to try and get the Belgian toothpaste out of the eyes there. And Cadel Evans in the World Champions jersey, the former mountain bike World Cup winner. A fantastic ride. Michele Scarponi had a puncture and continued to ride and chase as hard as he could. In fact, he had a fantastic ride, Michele Scarponi, but in the end it was Vinokurov and Evans were the only two riders left at this point. Garzelli and Cunego soldiering on. It really was a remarkable stage, one of the most exciting stages in the Giro d'Italia. In the finish, it was Cadel Evans ahead of Damiano Cunego, who managed to come back to the group with Alexander Vinokurov coming in third spot. A terrific win, he did it in style, the world champion of last year. Different kettle of fish today, Sean? It's not going to be like that at all.
No, it's certainly not. The dry conditions will make it that much more easier, much safer. But again, you know, it's going to be a big battle here, and we can see at the moment, you know, there's more and more nervousness on the front end of the bunch, and it's just going to go on, and you know, it's going to, you know, really start opening up here, and to get onto the fourth section of unsurfaced road, that is going to be a big fight. It's almost like going to a finish for a stage where there'll be a lot of, you know, movement, a lot of pushing for positions up front, and when they get on, it will settle down a bit. But it depends on what way the situation is. So we could see some teams, if they find themselves with a lot of riders in the front end of the bunch, they could start pushing on. But out front, the advantage, you know, with just under 40 kilometres, still 5:47 for our lone breakaway caller.
It is.
It's a big performance.
It's a very big performance, and he will take, I suggest, the Mountains classification jersey tonight as well, as he gets 5 points each time he gets over these third category climbs. And here we are on the Strade Bianche. Now, how are these bikes going to be set up, Sean? I mean, there's nothing much changing today for these, especially in this sort of condition, but they do have to worry about punctures.
Yes, well, the punctures, and what do you do in a situation? Do you put on, you know, Paris-Roubaix style tyres which are wider, which are higher? I doubt if there is many teams at all doing that, because when you look at the stage of, you know, the distance today, it's, you know, not really worth doing it for such a short section. So I think everybody will be the standard tyres, and just, you know, go out there and hope you don't have a mechanical problem at the wrong time on this, you know, final. And it is a big possibility that we will see some riders having problems, because when you see the surface here, a lot of loose gravel, and that is a big possibility for some riders will definitely have mechanical and flats.
The total distance on these white roads today is just 19 kilometres. The first section, that's 7.5 kilometres, then 2, and then 9.5 at the end. Russell Downing from Team Sky moving up distance at the back there, trying to get back on to the peloton. Young Russ from South Yorkshire riding his first Grand Tour. 5:29. This is a very impressive performance by Martin Kohler. He's ridden away, got a maximum of 8.5 minutes, and despite the best efforts of Garmin Cervelo, and they weren't really hanging around, and now Astana have taken up the cause on the front with Goran Stangeli here. They just haven't been able to eat into it quick enough this time in the moment. 38.3 kilometres still to go. Nearly 5.5 minutes of a gap. It's getting closer, Sean, but is it close enough?
Well, it's a difficult one to calculate here today, because, you know, we have to remember this just around the 20 kilometres of unsurfaced terrain, and how much Martin Kohler has left. He's really put in a big performance up till now, but can he continue? Because it is, you know, a very demanding run in this last 40 kilometres, and we can see new teams coming to the front. Astana taking it up there, and that, I think that will, you know, decide if Kohler can stay out in front. If you have other teams who want to take it up and really push it on, well, then the advantage should start melting down very quickly as we go into this final 35 kilometres.
A lot of riders dangling off the back, trying to get back onto the pace. A number of them being caught up in that little collision in the centre of the pack. Cyril Dessel coming off, looking most dischuffed, one has to say. Gears jamming. It was the same for Johnny Hoogland on the other side with the side of the road. It's art. That's what we get here on the Giro d'Italia. Martin Kohler's legs transformed into something you might have seen on Charlie Gall back in the 1950s. He's out by himself. What a difference from 12 months ago when this was absolutely rain-soaked. 5 minutes, 6 seconds. The gap beginning to come down, but remember, the other guys are still racing along on tarmac. Really does sap the speed. Look at the way Movistar have got towards the front, pushing hard. Pablo Lastras in very, very good form at the moment. Vincenzo Nibali's Liquid Gas squad as well. On the left-hand side of your screen, you can see Astana. But look at the way Gardeccia's just lurking in the middle there. He did so well last year. One man we shouldn't dismiss is Thomas Lukvist. If he's in any sort of good form, he won the very first professional Arroica race.
Yes, and when he's done that, he is able to get over this terrain. And there's a lot of riders in here who we might see surprising us, but again, I think the general classification riders, like a Contador, for example, big surprise last year on the cobbles in Roubaix, the way he performed. So he should be able to stay up here today, and if he's there in the final, this finish today would be a running that would suit Contador also.
Very much so. 4:54, Martin Kohler struggling as the peloton hit the Strade Bianche. Watch out for the dust that's going to be absolutely everywhere. They'll be coated white by the end of today. Some of those riders further down the back. Oh, look at the effort that's having to go into this for Martin Kohler as he climbs to the top of the Croce de Figini. He's looking for those 5 points and that green jersey of mountains classification. The attack comes from Jaroslav Popovic. The Radio Shack rider eases away from the rest of the peloton. Oh, Kohler's gap at this rate is just going to tumble because Jaroslav Popovic, being sheltered in the peloton, is on a charge. Clearly moving much faster, and Kohler is just pedaling squares now.
Yes, I think suddenly he's run out of energy, and he's having difficulty keeping it turning here, and he's on his lowest gears. We can see there, he's totally up on the left of his rear sprocket, and he's nothing left there, and having difficulty, keeping it going. But again, when you look at Popovic, the way he's turning and the speed he's going, it can be deceiving because this section, is probably that much more steeper. So it'd be interesting to see as Popovic come to this point, will he be able to keep it going as fast as he's doing at the moment, because he's looking very impressive at this time.
Certainly is very impressive indeed. Out of the peloton comes Robert Kieselowski. Oh, he's chasing in a rider as well. Kieselowski, very good climber, ex-mountain biker. Steven Kruiswijk is the other man just at the front there, in the Rabobank jersey of blue and orange. Kieselowski, Gardeccia, look, turning over a little tiny gear with Michele Scarponi on his wheel. And Joaquim Rodriguez can see 2 or 3 big movers going there, Sean. Big men starting to move up ahead of the peloton, and everybody's trying to react.
Yes, I think the moment somebody will up the pace here on the front and get 10-15 minutes at an advantage, there's always riders that want to get across, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. I think on the front end it will be just action all the time here, and the move of Popovic has really put everybody in a little bit of a panic here, and as we can see they're just marking each other, and it's amazing how fast these guys can go over this sort of terrain. And when you look at the rider out front, Kohler, he's really struggling, but these guys are almost going double the pace.
Yep, absolutely. Kieselowski is the man who's put the pressure on. Jan Bekelen's best young rider up towards the front, doing a very good job. But Bekelen's, if I remember rightly, Bekelen's was one of the men who gave a bit of a dig last year. Totally different scenario from last year in terms of weather. It was awful last year, wasn't it? It's going to be dust everywhere. The gaps were appearing already. 3 Astana men in there and moving up smoothly onto the wheel of Jaroslav Popovic. followed by Stefano Garzelli, is Roman Kreuziger. Kreuziger from Astana, with Kieselowski on his wheel, and they've reached Jaroslav Popovic. This is the very steep part of the course that we saw Kohler struggling with, and I think probably that's an indication that Kohler was beginning to suffer, because they are going, but they're going a lot faster than Kohler was. Popovic just a half a wheel ahead of Roman Kreuziger. Just behind Kreuziger is Stefano Garzelli. Year in, year out, consistent performance from the Acqua Sapone leader. He loves stages like this. He loves stuff like this. But they're split pretty much all over the hill now, Sean.
Yes, it's starting to stretch, as we can see. The bunch is really pulled out, and it's interesting to see now who is the riders are going to get into difficulty. We haven't heard of anybody of the big favourites for the moment, but I'm sure as we go further on here, there will be riders will start, having some difficulty staying. For the moment, everybody is, in the wheel as such. There's no great gaps, but on the descent as well, this is going to be interesting, because on the uncoated, unsurfaced road, the descent is going to be also very, very demanding, very technical, and dangerous.
Kreuziger leads Scarponi, leads Garzelli. At this point, Nibali is just 1, 2, 3, 4 back. The Katusha rider about 6 back is Joaquim Rodriguez. Kreuziger is really turning the gas on here, and there's about 2 or 3 riders seem to be comfortable with it at the moment. Scarponi just behind in the blue and pink of Lampre, and Stefano Garzelli. But some of the other big names feeling the pressure, not necessarily being shed yet, but they're feeling the pressure. Sky have a man in there, up towards the front. Over the top come the peloton. 3:25 is the gap. It's Choni, I think, from Sky, who's up towards the front. Serpent goes through the shot for Androni. Peter Kenak of Sky goes through your shot. That is brilliant riding by the young Manxman. He really is a super talent. He can do just about anything. Jerome Pinot goes over the top. Massimo Codol. There is the pink jersey of David Miller. I haven't seen hide nor hair of Alberto Contador. Maybe I was looking for other people, but you can almost guarantee that he's gone through already. That's a brilliant shot. Great long shot, seeing how well they're strung out. And as you say, Sean, they're going to watch this here now on the descent. Kohler has, in fact, the advantage here, because although he's beginning to tire, some of these big favourites are going to have to start looking out for themselves. It's going to be dusty, it's going to be a little slippery, and then none of them are really taking great efforts to descend at speed here.
No, certainly the big favourites are going to just try and get down this one with safety in mind.
About 30 riders are about 3 minutes and, nearly 3.5 minutes back. And this man here, Martin Kohler, who's done a fabulous job. Just look at the way the bike is sliding around at the back here. Oh, it's just proper old mountain biking. Brilliant. We might have a go at this. Just letting that bike do its thing, really. Try and just feather the rear brake just very slightly to knock off a little bit of speed. Don't lock the front brake or you are down. Just a little bit, feather, 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 and let the back of the bike just run and slide and do what it wants to do. You go too hard into a corner like that, both wheels will wash out and you are on the deck. Still coming over the top shot. Back on the tarmac for a little bit for Martin Kohler. Now, well, he's got to be careful of the first little bit of this. If he leans that bike over too much, there will be dust on the outside of those tyres. All that stuff that he's picked up on the gravel roads. Got to wait a little bit, Sean, just to scrub it off.
Yes, you have to be careful when you take, the dust on the tyres, as you say. But you can move the bike on the left to right, clean the tyres a bit, because if you really push it on, well, you can get caught out and slide out on the tar roads.
Gardeccia swinging side to side. Well, race radio telling us that one of the police out riding motorcycles has fallen, and there's Gardeccia with his foot out, balancing himself around the corner. One of the police motorcycles has toppled over on the way down. It's all about, does Martin Kohler have the cojones to get down here quicker than anybody else at the moment? That is the question. All the big riders just keeping it under control. All strung out at the moment. Climbers' overall standings then. Martin Kohler will take the green jersey onto his shoulders tonight. It's a fine day's work by the BMC rider. Come on, legs out, lads. Cyclocross style. Vincenzo Nibali is one of the best descenders in the peloton, and he doesn't seem to be too troubled at the moment. He's got to put some of the big rivals under real pressure here now. He's still not going to go hell for leather, I don't think, but back on the... maybe he wants to get to those tarmac roads before anybody else. Nibali is a superb descender. Whoa, oh, that's brilliant. Love it. Ooh, I'll have to break my race bike out when I get home.
And he's only playing with the rest, as we can see.
He's just, isn't he?
Looking over his shoulder, having a look, and I doubt if he's going if he's really going to push it that much, as we can see. It's a tactic from Nibali. Just put the others under pressure. Maybe the bigger favourites, put them in a panic situation a bit, get them to make an error here. But Nibali, he can descend so well. But this is a descent where you can get caught out with the greatest experience of all, because on a gravel section you just push a little too much, boards start to slide, and you can find yourself sliding all across the dust very quickly.
Yep, nice bit of speedway riding by Vincenzo Nibali. Who's going to chase after him? This is the big question. Well, the next section coming up in only about 2 kilometres time for these guys. This is great. This is really, really good. Vincenzo Nibali, he was literally just playing with them, wasn't he? Just toying with them. That must be so demoralising when you see a rider like Nibali just disappear off into the distance, and there's no possible way you can stay with them. And let's face it, these guys are fantastic bike handlers, all of them. Martin Kohler still doing a great job. 3 minutes in hand. I don't fancy driving that car, although if there's one rider who can drive it pretty well in these sort of circumstances, is Max Schiandri. Pedal trouble. Martin Kohler with the car alongside, urging them on. Jean Lalonde, the boss of BMC, going, go on, go on, go on. .259 is our gap. Welcome back live here as it looks like Bram Tankink giving it a massive dig on the front here to try and get away. He caught Vincenzo Nibali. Steven Kruiswijk has also been with him. Meanwhile, Martin Kohler is on the second section of road, unsurfaced road. It's not very long. It's only a couple of kilometres as Tankink forces the pace on. Right. Well done. Ducking back inside. That looks like Posivivo ever giving it a bit of a disappear off the side. And now more effort coming in from Lampre to try and bring back this man Bram Tankink to try and get across and do some work. It's Niemiec, the Polish rider, should be pretty good at this sort of thing. Visconti, the Italian champion, follows the train down. They're really strung out now. Massive pressure being put on at the front by Bram Tankink. And first of all by Vincenzo Nibali, who was just messing about with them, to be honest. But the second section of unsurfaced road is already under the wheels of Martin Koller, who has a gap of 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Oh, this is great. You've just got to urge this guy on, really, because he's had such a great ride, and he's still holding them at bay. It's going to be damn difficult to keep them back there, but even so, he's having a terrific attempt at it as Tankink really pushes on. He's got Niemiec on his wheel now. Tankink is getting into time trial mode. 30 kilometers to go for the next group on the road, with Visconti at the back, pushing as much as he can. Back to see Martin Koller at the front. Group of about 20 riders doing the chasing on, and looks like Garzelli, Stefano Garzelli, winner of the Giro, back at the turn of the century now. Long time ago, as riders begin to try and close up on Koller. He's still got 2 minutes or so. Well, some of the classics riders will be pretty good at this sort of stuff, Sean, wouldn't they?
Yes, certainly the classic riders should be able to manage this sort of terrain. The uphill probably, is the difficult section for them, because we see the percentage there, and on that sort of terrain it is more suited certainly to the climber. So if you can't cling on in there, well then on the descent the classic riders would be a bit more better on their bike handling.
Oh, Niemiec overshoots just a little bit in the desperate chase to get him back, and Dario Cataldo is the rider. Cataldo's a very talented all-round rider, and Cataldo moves away. Martin Koller knows this is for the taking. He knows that he's got nothing to lose now, and give it absolutely everything. Cataldo on the right, Tankink on the left. Tankink will be quite pleased to see Cataldo, I would imagine. But the peloton are easing up to the rear of these two. They are now on this little section here. Still one more to go. This section is interspersed with bits of tarmac, and back onto the Strada Bianchi again. 25.9 kilometers to go for the Swiss rider on our left-hand side. Scattered all over the place now. There'll be some riders absolutely cursing this today, and some riders who absolutely love it. Lots of people asking what sort of tyres are they on. Well, this will be a good way of looking at it. Jaroslav Popovic, who's had a good go. They're on the bigger tubs. Popovic has definitely got a bigger tyre on there. I'm not sure they're running anything quite as wide as a 28, but they may well have 25s on. All of the teams running tubular tyres. Some of them not changing anything at all. It's just horses for courses, really, Sean, isn't it? You just make your own decision on this one. And
yes, you certainly make your own decision, and when you consider the amount of unsurfaced road and the distance of the stage, I think a lot of the teams would be on the standard tyres. But again, as you see there, Popovic, some riders deciding to go for a bigger tyre.
At the back, 1:42. Paolo Tirolongo.
Simon Spillak from Lamprey.
feel like that's the pink jersey of David Miller. And Miller will be pretty good at this sort of stuff, actually. Peter Stethena is the other rider with him, just trying to drag him back up to this leading group, doing a good ride. Miller, we've already been on the deck once today, wouldn't want to go again. He wouldn't be the most aggressive in these sort of situations, but he's still pretty good. Kohler comes out of this little section onto the tarmac again. The final section comes with 24.5 kilometers to go and runs for 9.5 Ks. Dario Cataldo and Bram Tankink are the two riders trying to chase him down. He's still got 2:17 over the second group on the road. I think Martin Kohler is doing a fantastic job, Sean.
Yes, he's doing a great job, and it looked like when he hit the fourth section of unsurfaced road on the steeper one, he was really in difficulty keeping me going, but recovered quite well, and still, you know, putting in a great effort here. 2:15, 24 kilometres is going to be difficult for him. Unless they really, you know, start marking each other back in the main group of favourites, I think we should see, you know, a bit more of action here. And the 2:13, it looks like it's just that little bit too little at the moment.
Gadre. This is the French cyclocrosser who's decided, oh, hey, I can do this. This is my sort of terrain. I'm off. Jean Gadre giving it a bit of a dig out the front. He's followed by Raphael Valsferret, trying to track him down, and everybody's going on Valferret's wheel. 2:11 is the gap that Martin Kohler has. The teams, they're not in sort of Paris-Roubaix trim, but they will be looking at different ways of coming about. You can see the Rabobanks there. I've got 25s on the BMCs. It looks like I've got 25s on as well. Martin Kohler's team. And tyre pressure will be important for these riders as well. Weaving about the bike, and he's on the final section of the Strada Bianchi is Martin Kohler, still with over 2 minutes. This will be an epic win if he stays away. It really will. Cataldo doing a lot of the work here, Tankink in his wheel, or maybe it's just the way we see it in that group. David Miller at 2 minutes and 50 seconds behind. The chase group is at 2:08, so Miller needs a little more firepower, needs to keep going. Still time to chase when you get out the other side. Tankink, the Rabobank rider of the last 18 months or 2 years, that are a really terrific run. Been getting stronger and stronger, coincided with the fact I think he sort of leaned down a bit, or leaned up, whichever way you look at it. Under the 25 kilometre to go banner for the peloton, and Kohler is still away. Look at the way this bike is going to snake around. We saw Nibali getting a good bit of a speedway two-wheel slide on. 9.5 kilometres of this to go for this man, and then it's not over yet. After that, he's got 15k to power his way towards the line at 1:52. It's tight, isn't it, Sean? This one, touch and go.
Yes, it's getting very tight, and 22 kilometres. I'm afraid the final run-in could be just that little bit too much for him, but he deserves to get a stage victory of this one. The performance he's put in today, and we can see here, in the chasing group, there is quite a lot of riders there. We can see the Rabobank, they have a number of riders very close to the two chasers of Tankink, Cataldo. So maybe Rabobank, we could see them trying something if Tankink is taking back. But Miller is putting in a good job here. He's battling on here with his teammate, and not too far off this big group of big favourites at the moment. Martin Kohler has
A lot of racing still to do though. 21.9 kilometers to go. 1:44. Cataldo and Tanking. There's Stefano Garzelli in the middle of your shot. Steven Kresvig, the young rider from the Rabobank team, in the middle. Nibali is in this group as well. It's difficult to tell who is in the group actually, as they keep going in and out with the camera. This is the Peter Kennack needing it. Could be Nordhaug needing a front wheel. Anyway, what a dreadful time to have a puncture. He's going to have to wait for a long time to get that. Lars Petter Nordhaug going very well indeed. Martin Kohler has been out most of the day, got about 8.5 minutes of a gap, and still waiting. And the man who stopped at the side, oh, somebody's gone off into the ditch. Cataldo. Yeah, he's just run a little bit off, wide off the road. Here we go. Whoops! Down goes Dario Cataldo. Two-wheel slide into the ditch. For done that a few times. For Dario Cataldo, following Bram Tankink. Both wheels sliding out at the same time. Peter, and that's what it is. Oh, he's going to get caught and passed by the group behind. Oh, Roman Koisinger comes past. Cruel luck for the two men who were chasing Martin Kohler. Dario Cataldo losing both wheels and sliding off into the ditch. And Bram Tankink getting chain stuck and jamming the chain, I would think, or dropping it. This is the pink jersey of David Miller. Still trying to get up. People now scattered about all over the place. This is a terrible problem for riders who get any mechanical at this point, Sean, because the cars are all over the place, and as are the riders.
Yes, riders, teammates, mechanics, team cars scattered everywhere, and we can see a lot of riders having problems. We see just riders, you know, and Tanking is surprising there. Seemed to be on the straight road, and he dropped his chain and it got tangled, and he was still, you know, taking a long time to get it back on and to get back on his bike.
Very much so.
And the other Rabobank weaning, of course, going to have a go here, because they have quite a few riders there in that group, and they're the ones who is going to push on.
Agnoli, Tabore and Miller. They're going to sit behind Miller, of course. He's the man who has to do the work, and he's gradually making up that gap on the group in front now. Dario Cioni was the man from Sky who was on the deck. Weaning on the left-hand side of your shot, still with black armband. And now Tanking has been caught and passed thanks to a mechanical. Then he has the ability to do that. It's a fine ride by Miller, though. He's gaining. Little by little, he's trying to get back. .1:30 for Kohler, still ahead, 20 kilometers to go. Fantastic riding by the Swiss. Here is the big jersey Miller, who crashed earlier today, having run into Angel Vicioso. And now fighting to regain the ground on this large group here. Still up the road. We had Peter Stetina with him earlier, but it's not the case anymore. Sky at the front. Now Thomas Lundqvist is the rider, the Swedish rider who's won on these roads and in the very first professional Eroica race, who's leading the big group behind. Meanwhile, they're just trying to get away, these two. Mechanics stationed at the side of the road, desperately waving spare wheels for their teams, just in case anybody needs one. I mean, how long can you keep riding on a duff wheel if this is the case?
Well, they just keep on riding until the team car, comes up to you, or otherwise you just keep on riding until you come to the end of the unsurfaced road, and hopefully, the mechanic will be there. And as we see there, I think it was the teammate of Miller, Stetina, yes, he was going to stop, and he was talking on the radio piece to the car, and we could see him, he started to go on again because the team car, probably relayed him, keep going, keep on riding, we'll get there.
Looks like Gioni coming up on the rear of this group here with David Miller digging in. They've got a good gap, these two now. Peter Wiening doing most of the work with 18 and just about 18.5 kilometres still to go for our lead man Martin Kohler, as the rest of the group goes underneath the 20 kilometre to go banner. When they come out, the end of this Strade Bianche section is still 15k to the finish, and it's an uphill finish as well. Now David Miller in the pink jersey coming to the 20 kilometre to go mark. That's a stylish bit of riding to get back on here for Dario Cioni. Cioni, who was off the bike just a few minutes ago. We saw him as we went past him. He's been very strong in this Giro d'Italia so far, and very strong today, Sean, because he's come straight back to the group. Yes,
well, he is the rider can do that sort of terrain, and it's amazing, the riders we're seeing here. If we had a normal mountain stage or a normal surface road, we see tanking up there. Would he be up there if it was the case? I think, because of the dirt road, the unsurfaced road, tanking had a big morale to stay up there, but unfortunately, he had some mechanical problems, and it's really put him back a long ways on the road.
Cioni's an ex-mountain biker as well, of course, which helps. I think these two are doing a great ride here. 55 seconds to Kohler. I think he's going to be joined very shortly. Oh, that must look like so close, so near and yet so far away. They can see the dust rising in the peloton up ahead, and unfortunately they haven't got there yet. Tabore is the man in the red and white of Acqua Sapone, Agnoli of Liquigas, Cioni of Team Sky, and the man at the front in the pink jersey being forced to do all the work, as you would expect, is the leader of the race, David Miller. Pinotti coming out of the front of the bunch. Well, that's a brave attack by Marco Pinotti. Doesn't last too long, they all sort of shut him down. And even this group of about 35 is completely strung out. But if you imagine the rest of them, they're all going to be in 1s and 2s and 3s all the way down the road. There'll be a whole bunch of riders who think, well, blow this for a game of soldiers. I'm just going to, in fact, wheel my way around today. Miller and Agnoli have almost made the junction here. It's not that far. That's good riding. Super riding. The pink jersey coming back to the group, and Dario Cioni a little nervous now at the back. He's already been down once, just a little bit nervous. Coming onto the tarmac, he'll close that gap up a bit. 15 kilometers still to go. And all the Strade Bianchi is over. And now it's a case of, can Martin Koller hang on? He's only got 40 seconds of a gap between the chasing men. And look at them, absolutely strung out all over the road. Welcome back. Peter Wiening and Jean Gadret lead the chase to try and get across to Martin Koller. Koller, the Swiss rider. And he's only got 24 seconds now. He's done a mighty, mighty ride today. And behind, the group is just pinging off in ones and twos. They go through the 15 kilometer to go banner. Essentially, there's one man ahead. It's Martin Koller of BMC, the Swiss rider, and then in between the two, Peter Wiening of Rabobank, along with Jean Gadret of AG2R Le Mondial. Gadret, a cyclocross expert. This is Stefano Garzelli. He's got Massimo Codol with him, and I think Tamori's probably come back as well. Oh, rider down, rider down. Oh no. This is at the back of the group, and Garzelli has gone past. Let us please, God, pray that the worst that could have happened is that this man has been knocked unconscious. Oh, he's lifting his arm. He's lifting his arm. Oh, I don't want to go through that ever again.
It looked like a team masseur there from the Rabobank team, maybe handing up a drink or something, and just collided a bit with the masseur, just trying to take a fresh bottle.
Tom Slagter is the rider from Rabobank who is on the floor, and ahead his teammate Peter Wiening, and with cyclocrosser Jean Gadret have 21 seconds to make up on Koller, being attended by medical staff. Here on the floor is Tom Slagter, but saw him lift his arm. You can see him lifting his arms on the floor. "20 seconds is the gap at the head of the race, but I would have to assume that he probably ran a little wide here. He seemed to be by himself, Slagter. Yes, come on, director, we can see he's on the floor. We know this. 19 seconds at the front of the race with the two Astana men. Maschirelli, I think, is the man of the head, and then Kreuziger is just second in line here, moving through smoothly. Pinotti is just behind him, pushes Maschirelli back into the line. 20 seconds between Peter Wiening, Jean Gadret, and the man at the head of the race, Martin Koller, the Swiss rider. And there must be 50 riders still in this big group, still to try and chase up. They've got 11 kilometers to do so, Sean. We're not sure what we haven't been given a time gap between Wiening, Gadret, and the group itself. All we know is what the group is here. The gap is here between Koller and the two men chasing him. 20 seconds with 11 kilometers to go.
Yes, and I think another 25 seconds back to the group of big favourites. It looks to be about that, and still, you know, the way they're riding, the two chasers here, he's still putting in a great performance, and if we had a flat run in from here, you know, it would be possible for him to hang out there, but I don't think with this very difficult run to the finish he's going to, you know, really suffer on that final number of kilometres.
The last 3 kilometres, this is the flat section, the last 3 kilometres are uphill once again. I mean, he's been good today, but I wouldn't fancy his chances in terms of climbing against either of these men. Peter Wiening, who we know can climb. He's won a stage in the Tour de France doing just that, in the medium mountain sections in Alsace. And Jean Gadret, who again is no mean climber and did so well in the Giro d'Italia 2 or 3 years ago, suddenly came upon the scene as a climber, and everybody was wondering where he'd come from, but he had come from cyclocross today. He's got both options, Sean, and they can see Kohler up the road now, just ahead of them. You could see him on the corner. They are almost across to him.
Yes, and you know, they both have a great chance here of holding off the other two fresh men coming up, and you know, they can see their leader out front.
There's a replay of Tom Slagter's fall. Up was heavy. Kohler suddenly, it seems the energy seems to be sapping from him just a little. Maybe he knows these guys are coming up, and that his best option is to keep rolling. Yes, they did. That's exactly what's happening. Keep rolling, allow them to join him, and then the three of them work together to pull out as much gap as they can over the rest of the peloton. Wiening on the right, Gadret on the left of your screen. And Slagter is still on the floor. Oh, everybody, you know what to do. Prayers now, please. Not again. Once again, I have to say exactly the same way as we said the other day. These riders do not know what's happening behind. It is chaos out there today. You see how they are all over the road. These men here have no idea that a rider like Slagter has gone down. They are so concerned with doing their own thing, keeping upright. All the cars are all over the place. Everybody fingers crossed for Tom Slagter. 9.5 kilometers to go for our lead men. Look at this, 3 riders from Sky up here. Right at the front. Riders and cars still filing through from all over the place as Tom Slagter still receives medical attention on the ground. These guys up ahead have no idea what's going on. There's 3. In fact, to be honest, we don't have any idea what's going on, other than the man is down and seriously hurt, clearly. Oh, massive turn of speed by Peter Wiening. And Jean Gadret is the man being forced to chase. Martin Kohler can quite happily just sit there at the moment, Sean, can't he? He's perfectly acceptable for him, if he can, just to try and get some sort of rest.
Yes, I think he's going to just try and you know, cling on here with the 2 fresher men, and we can see Gadret, you know, he's just lost a couple of bike lengths here to Wiening, and difficulty closing it down because Wiening is really going for it, and he knows they have to really, you know, just keep it on full gas up here front, because 8 kilometers to finish. The group behind is not that far off, and you know, they'll be made aware as well that there's a, you know, a group of riders and a number of teams back there want to continue on the chase. And the Sky, as you say, 3 riders here, you know, they're also just waiting for the moment, and in a real good position for us to do something as we get into this final 7.8 kilometers.
Slagter remains on the floor, although clearly he has some sort of responses. We saw his arms moving, and he has his knees propped up, so at least he's has some sort of consciousness, which is good. .30 of a gap with about 7 kilometers to go here, and Gadret and Kohler are gradually losing ground to Peter Wiening. He's putting in a mighty time trial effort at the front. I don't think Kohler's got the legs anymore after a long day, and Gadret would never have the legs against Peter Wiening in that sort of situation. Thomas Lukvist in the 4th spot here. There is Michele Scarponi from Lamprey. Peter Kennack, Thomas Lukvist and Dario Cioni. Oh, well done, Cioni. Getting right back up to the front to look after Thomas Lundqvist today. Maybe it's they're trying to make their move. And a great piece of riding by young Peter Kennack, the Manxman. There he is, 1, 2, 3 back in this Sky train here. Jose Serpa on the right-hand side of the your shot there as Peter Wiening continues on. Tom Slagter still on the ground on the right-hand side. Don't know where all this power came from, Sean, but just look at him go.
Yes, he's really, piling on the pressure at the moment, and when you look at the way they were working together, Gardeccia was pulling pretty well, taking his turn on the front, and Wiening maybe should have waited for a bit longer and just ride with Gardeccia, the two of them, to hold on out front, because we can see the group of big favourites. Lamprey, of course, for Scarponi want to ride. 3 from Sky, they are going to also start riding in the end if they feel they're not going to close it down. They are thinking of the stage victory there, so it's going to be very, very difficult for Wiening to hold on, certainly out on his own.
Yeah, he's going to have to be mightily strong in this case. Lamprey for Scarponi. Have got 1, 2 men on the front here. Scarponi is lurking behind Peter Kennack at the moment, about 6 back in line. Lamprey putting a big effort in here. This is suiting Sky at the moment, but how long will they be able to stay out of the fray? And it's not just them, of course. There's half a dozen other riders in that group who could still do something. Sky have definitely got designs on the stage with Thomas Lundqvist, one would guess, and also Lamprey with Scarponi, but about maybe 5, 6 other riders who are probably just lurking in there and quite capable of taking things today, Sean, and everybody else is doing the work at the moment.
Yes, well, we have a group of 30 riders there, and there's a lot of riders who are just waiting for the moment. As we can see, they're 34 seconds from Wiening back to the group of favourites, and it's really not a lot when you consider this final 3 kilometres very difficult. And I think Joaquim Rodriguez, he's also in there. I've seen him a bit earlier on, so we have some of these specialist big punchers for this style of finish, just playing the waiting game for the moment.
Orvieto is where we're finishing. They're running into this medieval fortress town. There's a number of riders who could really, there's 3 Uskatela riders in there. You'd have to guess that Igor Anton has made it into this group as well. They're protecting him there. Lundqvist could do something today. We've got Joaquim Rodriguez. Danilo Di Luca is probably in that group as well for Katusha. We've not really seen the whole group as it is. And the pink jersey of David Miller, of course, there. About 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 back on the left-hand side. We've not seen nothing of Alberto Contador or the big overall favourites here, apart from Michele Scarponi, who we know is lurking just behind Peter Kennack. He's doing a good ride, Wiening. 42 seconds now. Surely they're going to have to take up the charge now. If they're going for the stage victory, it's something that more than one team is going to have to try and shut down. This lone breaker, Peter Wiening, still between them. Jean Gardeccia and Martin Kohler. Not for long, I'm pretty certain of that. There's a whole number of riders in here. Even the Androni riders will want to be pushing on hard. This is a real old-style time trial effort here. Hands on the drops. Biggest gear you can possibly push it. He's going for it. 3.5 kilometres to go. Sean, he's doing a better job than I expected. I thought they'd have shut this down a little bit further by now, but with about 40 seconds in hand coming into the last 3 kilometres. Yes,
it's looking good, but again, when you have to make a big effort like that, and then it suddenly kicks up in the last 3 kilometres, and closer you get to the finish, the more the percentage goes up. I think the big favourites here who have been just playing the waiting game, if they take it up in the final 2 kilometres, 2.5 kilometres, the 40 seconds will come down very, very quickly. But Wiening is putting in a great performance here, on the flat, on his own. You must remember that the Lamprey riders are 2 of them sharing the pace, sitting on the front, and but it will be a difficult one for him to hold this group of big favourites off.
Gardeccia and Kohler, remember, are still doing a job of work in between this man here and the peloton. Apparently, the latest time check we've got is that Kohler and Gardeccia are only 6 or 7 seconds behind Peter Wiening. So maybe Martin Kohler's got a little bit of a break, a little bit of recovery, and he's helping out with Jean Gardeccia. And 2 against 1 is always going to be better. into the outskirts of Orvieto. They run around the outside of the old town here very shortly. We're coming through the last of the settlements, Sferacavallo, with 3k to go. And then they'll hang a very sharp left-hand bend in the last 3 kilometres, and they'll start to rise from now onwards. It's all uphill from now onwards, Sean, and this is where it's going to count.
Yes, this is where it's going to be difficult for Waning to just keep on going, because when you make the effort on the flat for a number of kilometres, very difficult, very demanding to keep it going. We can see here he's starting to lose ground. We've just seen Gardeccia and Cola being swallowed up by this chasing group of big favourites.
So that's it, all over for Cola and Gardeccia, unless Gardeccia feels he can have another go in just a second, but I don't think so. The marauding Hungary peloton is upon them, and Wiening has come to a virtual standstill. He is pedalling as much as he possibly can, but they're, look at them, they're just massing behind him, they're just lurking, sharking behind him, as Thomas Lundqvist puts in the effort at the front with Gardeccia behind him. Then just off the back of Gardeccia is Scarponi, looking very, very calm and collected, as is Romain Koisinger. Oh, David Miller, the pink jersey, after such a long chase back, cannot hang with the pace when Lundqvist ups the ante. And Wiening, grinding his way up this hill with 2 kilometres to go, is going to be caught and passed shortly, I would say, Sean.
Yes, I think when you see the way he's rolling it up here, difficulty keeping going, and there's other riders here, as we can see, just waiting, playing the waiting game. Contador is there. Yep. I think there's the big favourites are all in there, and when you see the percentage here, still with just under 2 kilometres to go for Wiening, it's a long ways when you have the percentage so steep.
Nevegal digging in as hard as he can, is gritting his teeth. I think it's Duarte who's just behind him for Farnese Vini. In the centre of the shot is Vincenzo Nibali, struggling, fighting his bike, pushing it from one way to another. Michele Scarponi passes Thomas Lundqvist. Scarponi gets about 5 or 6 bike lengths, puts it up a gear, and that's Lundqvist gone. Can anybody go with Michele Scarponi with just... Lundqvist is not giving up though. He's chasing him down the hill here. Wow, what a finish. What a finish we've got in store with 1.5 kilometres to go. What a difficult day, and chapeau to David Miller. He's worked so hard to try and get back onto that group. Scarponi gives it a dig. Lundqvist is not prepared to let him go. Well done, young man. And behind, Alberto Contador, for the first time. We haven't seen him all day, but he got over the Strada Bianchi well enough. And now he's in 3rd spot here, just behind Lundqvist. The power gets a bit knocked off by Scarponi. They all start to look at each other again. Oh, it's going to be a real ding-dong battle in this last kilometre, Sean.
Yes, it is, and it's shaping up to be a sprint royale here. You can see, the big favourites, and they're just playing the waiting game. They can see Wiening out there, and they know that's not a problem. So they're just calculating now. How long can they, wait until they just really take up their sprint.
Last kilometre then. Movistar take up the challenge. Looking over the shoulder, who is going to take this? Peter Wiening has got about 300 metres, if that. He'll turn right into the town itself, into the Plaza Cajan. Scarponi looks at Contador, who looks across the other side. Pinotti is still in there as well. This is looking good for Peter Wiening now. They're all looking at each other, and Peter Wiening is being given a little bit more rope. 600 metres to go for Wiening. Who's going to attack, Sean? Who is going to go out of the bunch here? It flattens out a little bit here.
Yes, and it's amazing that nobody takes it up, and considering the number of riders we've got here.
Kenek. It's Kenek who's taken up the charge. And now shooting out of the front of the peloton, Euskaltel trying to get across to Peter Wiening. That's a terrific attack. It has to be. Surely, is it Igor Anton who has to come across? It's Nieve. Looks more like Nieve. Looks like Nieve. Nieve, the rider who won a stage in the Giro last year, is trying to get across to Peter Weening, but he's not, because they've left it too late. Peter Weening is going to take the win, and fine one it is too. Peter Weening, who got across to Martin Kohler with Jean Gadre, takes the win here in Orvieto, and it's a massive sprint in for second place. Who is going to get second place here? Sprinting for the line, Duarte of Farnese Vini gets the second spot. And look at them all spread out along the road. David Miller, who crashed earlier in the day and then got dropped a little on the Strada Bianchi, fought his way back into the lead group in the pink jersey, but it was just too much effort because he had to give it such a huge amount of energy. Nobody really helping him in the chase, Sean, and in that sort of situation you use up all your reserves pretty quick.
Yes, well, I think when you make that effort like Miller had to make, you pay for it in the end, and we could see that he did, suffer big time when they kicked up in the final 3 kilometres. And that is the way it goes when you have to make a big long chase like Miller had to do today. But Weening, it was surprising that they had nobody from the bigger favourites. I thought we would see much more attacks, and they started to look at each other. But chapeau, you have to hand it to him. He put in a real big strong performance there to hold off.
David Miller in the pink jersey, riding in towards the finish, and what a great effort. A great ride by Martin Kohler today as well. This is the cathedral at Orvieto. We're going to come and scattered in 2s and 3s and 1s today. It's been another massively hard day for the Giro d'Italia. What a day to come back to racing, Sean. I mean, yesterday's stage was a long one, but essentially a flat one with just one little dig at the end. But this is still such a hard day. Totally different sort of situation in the dry than it is in the wet. Yes, well, it's certainly a safer situation, but I think the teams, the riders would have realised that it was going to be always a difficult day, considering the terrain in that final 40 kilometres. The pink jersey arriving in to the finish line, to a round of applause with the man of the day, in my opinion, Martin Kohler on the right hand side. So near and yet so far for the BMC rider, and huge congratulations to him. He did a fantastic job at keeping people at bay. Only got caught within the last 8-9 kilometres. Terrific job. I think he had most of the DSs a bit worried at some point. Peter Weening it is who took the sprint, the victory today, and then the sprint was Fabio Duarte who came over second. Serpa, I think it was, of Androni, who got third. But as you say, Sean, none of the big favourites just sitting in there and not really showing as much as they did. The only big favourites who really had a go were Michele Scarponi and Thomas Lukvist responding. It was Serpa who got the third. Looks like Nevegal comes through to get fourth. There is Alberto Contador going through. Great ride by Pinotti. Yes, a good performance by Pinotti, and as you say, the surprise that we did not see Contador, Rodriguez, for example, having a go. When we see the rider from Lampre, Scarponi, going in the attack, I thought we would see some of the other big favourites having a go, but unfortunately he did not seem to be capable of doing it. 8 seconds for Contador, Scarponi, Rodriguez, Kreuziger, Steven Kruiswijk again doing a really good job. Fantastic job. 8 seconds back, all coming in the same group. Lukvist at 8 had a really good go. Marco Pinotti, Svitsov, Garzelli, and Menchov, who we've seen absolutely nothing of until the results board comes up. He does have a habit of just hiding himself away, and you managed to stay upright. Wonderful finish here in Orvieto, and one to remember. Proper full-on red-blooded racing here in the Giro d'Italia. Peter Wiening takes the jersey ahead of Marco Pinotti. He's already had it once. Konstantin Svitsov at 2 seconds. Then Nevegal at 5. Pablo Lastras again had a good go today. 22 seconds in Nibali at 24. Scarponi, Kruiswijk, Contador. Jose Serpa at 33. And Thomas Lukvist is in 11th spot. Live shots then from another beautiful day in the Giro d'Italia. What is the situation? Well, it's like this. It's a perfect day for a breakaway, and these are the men in it. 5 of them, in fact. Jussi Väikkönen of Omega Pharma Lotto is the man at the front. Jaroslav Popovic had a good dig yesterday. He's clearly feeling aggressive, clearly feels on good form riding for Radio Shack. He's the best placed man in the general classification at 5:35. Other men in the break: Sasha Modolo of Colnago CSF, Fredrik Verschielen of Vacheron Soleil, and Christophe van der Waal of Quickstep. Van der Waal just sitting behind Jaroslav Popovic at the moment. They had a lead of about 5.5 minutes. It's come down to 4 minutes and 24 seconds with 76.9 kilometers to go. The move was instigated way back at 195k to go, with Väikkönen and van der Waal getting away, and at about 5k later, clearly Jaroslav Popovic feeling in good form, because he was the man who then pushed on with Sasha Modolo and Fredrik Verschielen. This is the peloton itself. Welcome. It's the Giro d'Italia, stage 6. And today, a bit of a bitty day really. Could be a sprinter's day, might not be a sprinter's day. Some of the big favourites will be perhaps thinking about tomorrow's finish up Monte Vergine, which is a pretty long climb if steady, and it gets steeper and steeper towards the end. And I wonder whether Mr. De Luca just hung back a little bit yesterday and took a packet, because he's won up there twice before and he wants to have another go again. He's made it pretty public that he wants to do so. There's Rabobank on the front. They have the big jersey on the shoulders of Peter Wiening. Sean, sort of classic breakaway day today, although it doesn't look as though they want to let it go.
Well, normally it should be a breakaway day, considering the general classification now, compared to yesterday. Big time gaps, and yesterday, a lot of riders coming in with a long way off the winner of the stage. 20 plus minutes for the riders, so it gives the opportunity for the riders who lost that 7 or 8 minutes plus yesterday to get into a break, and that's what we're seeing here. But again, maybe some teams have plans for today, for the end, and to have a go for the stage victory, and not allowing the breakaway to take a big advantage. But it's always a question of who's going to do the chasing in the end. The teams that feel they can do something, is there somebody in there? That is the question. Yesterday we see, of course, it looked like that Wiening could be swallowed up in that final kilometres, but hung on brilliantly and took his great stage victory. And it was a surprise to me that we did not see some of the teams who still had men in there. They had 2 men in from a team. You have to sacrifice one and have a go there, and that was a situation for the stage victory, but also for the general classification yesterday. So sometimes the tactics in the earlier part of the day they look well, but as you go on, they don't continue on and continue right to the end of the stage.
Before we look at today's stage a little bit more, and before we look at the surprises and not so many surprises in the results yesterday, let's bring you up to date with some of the news. People who had a bit of a problem yesterday, or more than a bit of a problem. Tom Schlagter, the first of our people to be mentioned. We had that heart-stopping moment, didn't we, when Schlagter went down and didn't seem to move, and then somebody immediately jumped off a motorcycle and started giving him CPR, which is everybody then was like, oh, not again, please. But Schlagter did start to move. The extent of his injuries are he's got a lot of facial lacerations, and he's broken the bones in his upper jaw and lower orbit on his face. He can't continue, of course. It's a nasty injury around the orbit. It can be very, very difficult to mend, but he's on his way home. Rabobank, on the other hand, did have some light of the day with the pink jersey, obviously losing Schlagter, but Peter Wiening takes the pink jersey. A lot of riders coming a cropper on the dust and dirt and gravel of yesterday. A lot of people saying, no, we don't mind going uphill and we don't mind going along the flat on this stuff, but we don't like going downhill. I'm quite sure how you do that particularly well. But I thought it was a great stage yesterday. Peter Wiening in the pink. We'll take a short break. We'll come back and we'll round up exactly who is wearing what. Five men are in a break. They are Jussi Väikkönen of Omega Pharma Lotto, the Finnish champion. Christoph van der Waal of Quickstep. Jaroslav Popovic of Radio Shack. Sasha Modelo of Colnago CSF. And Frederick Verschelen of Vakon Soleil. Verschelen's the oldest guy in the group. I think the youngest guy's probably, I'm not quite sure, I think it's probably Sasha Modelo. This is the back of the peloton. We're not seeing much of the breakaway at the moment. Only one man really a threat on GC, and that's really why they're bringing it back. It's Jaroslav Popovic. He's been around a long time, and they don't want to let him get too far up the road. He was only at 5 minutes and 35 seconds on the GC, and they wanted to cut that down. It looking a little bit like a breakaway could go to the end, and Rabobank might lose the pink jersey. Peter Wiening took the pink jersey on yesterday. Fantastic win, Sean. I mean, I thought he was an absolute powerhouse in the end. He really time trialled his way to the end.
Yes, he was very strong. When you see the final kilometres on the flatter section, leading into the last 2 kilometres where it kicked up very steeply in the beginning, he was putting in a great performance, and you know, that's it's possible to do, but when you hit that final climb, difficult to keep it going, but he did the job well, and you know, hung on bravely. The finish itself, you know, it looked like it was going to cause more difficulty for the big favourites, but nobody really attacked. They were looking at each other. Then we see Scapponi gave a dig, but it didn't work out. And after that, there was, you know, a bit of looking around, and nobody wanted to continue on. But, you know, chapeau to Wiening. He did a really good job, and when he was with Gardeccia, of course, he decided to go it alone. It looked like maybe not the best thing to do, but in the end of the day it worked out very well, because then he could continue on, give it 100% all the way to the end, and didn't have to worry about somebody for the sprint in the last couple of 100 metres.
This is Jaroslav Popovic. He's had a long and distinguished career in the Giro d'Italia. He's been up the pointy end of things for a long time as a rider. There was a time, of course, when he was hailed as one of the next big things, but never quite came off, really, and he's been one of the stalwart lieutenants of Lance Armstrong for many years. Went from one team to another with him, and in fact he joined him after he'd moved teams, and under the particular crest of Lance. Now finds himself at Radio Shack. A team which to me seems a bit leaderless, to be honest, at the moment. This is Väikkönen, another man who's making a decent comeback into professional racing. He, or has been for the last couple of years, he had some knee troubles for quite a while. Again, another very talented man that was touted as one of the next big riders, but didn't quite make it. Knee troubles pay to that. There's Van der Waal in the middle. 25 years of age. I think of this group, 2 of them are doing their first Giro d'Italia. Van der Waal from Quickstep, and Verschulen, despite being the oldest in the group. Popo's a bit. This is Steven Kruiswijk, by the way, best young rider at the moment, just ahead of the pink jersey Rabobank, having a pretty good week actually.
Yes, having a very good week, and we see yesterday they were very much to the fore at the important time of the stage, when they were on that unsuffered sections, and when the racing was really after being hot and heavy for a long time. They had a lot of riders up there, and you know, the team is going well, and here they are with 2 jerseys at the moment, and as you say, Dave, they're not taking any chances with this breakaway with Popovic at 5:35. They're controlling the situation, not able to, you know, get out to a big advantage and then having maybe to panic in the end. So it's the way to do. So they are, you know, going to make sure they hold on to the jersey for today and for a number of days. How long that will be is the question, because we're getting close to difficult days in this race, and very early in this Tour of Italy, where we're going to have very, you know, difficult mountain finishes.
Bram Tankink, it was just pulling off the side of the road for a natural break. Tankik was a bit unlucky yesterday, got away with Dario Cataldo and had a mechanical drop the chain. And unfortunately, the man with him as well, Dario Cataldo, managed to run off the road as well. The list of injuries was quite extensive yesterday in one way or another. And we've got Valero Piva coming up as an interview, the Director Sportive of HTC High Road, so we'll just have a chat with him in a second, but we'll go through the injury list after we've managed to do that. That's Pozzovivo, the diminutive little climber from Colnago CSF, got a right drubbing in the Tour. When Colnago are in. So our breakaway men moving towards the finish. It begins to rise towards the finish, but it's not particularly lumpy today. Here we are, we've got Valerio Piva.
Si aujourd'hui l'étape est vraiment pour sprinter, je parle surtout de mon sprinter.
The stage is possibly for sprinters today, which would obviously want to get Cavendish there.
Je ne suis pas sûr que Cav peut survivre. Parce que j'ai vu quand même la côte avant.
But I'm not quite sure this is the day for him. I'm not sure looking at the profile.
Et quand même 3-4 kilomètres.
Before the last 10 kilometers, it's quite up and down.
Qui n'ont pas de sprinter, ils vont essayer quelque chose.
I'm pretty sure lots of the teams without sprinters will try something. So Mark might have it be difficult to control the race. We had a meeting this morning, and we decided that the plan would be to try and get to the sprint, but we'll just have to see.
Après, bien sûr, si la course sera encore ouverte, on pourra
if the race is still pretty open,
par exemple, derrière,
we'll try to close any gap that there is. There will be an escape, said Valero this morning. Absolutely. It's pretty difficult to plan though until you see who's in the escape and see what's going to happen at the end. It's one of the stages that's very difficult up and down. It is possible for a sprint, but we're not sure at the moment whether Mark has the legs to get over those rocky coastal roads. These are our breakaway men once again. Just to remind you, best placed man on classification is the man there in red and white of Radio Shack. It is Yaroslav Popovic, the Ukrainian lieutenant of Lance Armstrong. Quite in the middle of your shot. Just ahead of the Italian champion, Giovanni Visconti. Visconti really wanted to show the jersey off today. A couple of media outlets he's been saying, I really want to do something with today. At the moment, he's just sitting there, waiting. And see if any of the other teams bring back the breakaway, which I think they probably will. Popovic is probably the man who spells the death knell for the breakaway. Although Sasha Modolo was only at 7 minutes and 40 seconds, but Popovic, a much more accomplished all-round rider and capable of climbing reasonably well as well. So at 5:35, a little bit too dangerous to let get up the road, one would think. Right, we'll take a break. It's 4 minutes and 10 seconds. The gap, 68.7 kilometers to go. 5 men up the road. That's a fine sight. The Italian countryside. It really is a beautiful looking tour, there is no doubt about that. It wasn't so beautiful looking yesterday, even if it was pretty spectacular. In fact, you couldn't see an awful lot. Daniel Napolitano in the Aqua Saponi colours of red and white with a blue helmet just on the left-hand side there. It was a bit difficult to see in all the dust, and some of the riders coming a cropper because of it. Sean, the list of injuries yesterday, fairly extensive.
Yes, well, there was a lot of riders crashed yesterday, and luckily, you know, we'd had one crash which wasn't really the fault of the terrain yesterday on the unsurfaced road. the rider from Rabobank who we lost out of the race. But the rest, there was about 18 to 20 riders crashed. Of course, Miller and Viscioscia we see, but then there was a lot of them, as we went on. Chris Butler from BMC, Richie Port, he crashed and lost a bit of time yesterday actually. Marcel Weiss, Hubert Dupont, Kirienke, Daniel Moreno, Manzati, Dennis Van Winden, Bozic, Jackson Rodriguez, Dessel. There was a lot of problems. I think the spectacular ones was when we see the two riders that were out in front, when we see Tanking having the problem, and then we see the rider from Quickstep who really crashed pretty hard, Cataldo, but soft landing I suppose in the gravel section, so he came out of it pretty well. But I think they were really pushing it a bit too much. We could see that Tanking was really pushing, and Cataldo tried to follow of course, and just both wheels just left from under him and off he went. But a lot of talk today about it as well, and Wheeling was asked a question about what do we think. Well, he said yes, it's always dangerous, but I can't complain, I won the stage. The ones who lost out yesterday giving out De Luca said it was more like cyclocross, so it's always a situation. The ones have a good day, they don't say too much about it, but the ones have a bad day, they are giving out hell.
Well, that's always going to be, isn't it? David Miller and Matthew Wilson both saying, well, they're not completely complaining, but and also Brett Lancaster saying that we don't mind doing these gravel roads, we don't mind doing it uphill, we don't mind doing it on the flat, we're not that keen on doing it downhill. But they're actually more concerned with the descent on Monte Crostis, which we said yesterday, the organisation and Angelo Domolan has sent a team to assess the danger of it, and there's all sorts of rumours and things flying around. I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen yet, but one of the ideas that's been touted around is that they put catch netting on some of the worst bends, which does seem a bit weird, but I don't know. Will they use the descent or not? I'm not so sure. What did you think of yesterday's section, Sean? I think you would have probably revelled in that.
Yes, it depends on what sort of rider you are, and of course if you can do that style of racing, well then you would like it, because you can cause a lot of problems. And for me, if I was in a big tour, like when I was doing the Tour of Spain for example, if I had something like that, well I could put a lot of the good climbers in difficulty, and we did see Nibali yesterday trying that. He pushed on big time. It wasn't really to try and break away and get away on his own or get into a break. He wanted to test the others, put some of the other favourites in difficulty, and maybe they might make a mistake and run off a bit and lose a bit of time that way. So yeah, it's all part of racing, and when you get the good conditions I think it's okay, but when you get the real wet conditions, well then it becomes a mud bath as we had last year. But I think they're professional. The descents yesterday, when you run off, you don't have big speed, so the risk of doing damage is not there. So I think yes, it was a good stage yesterday for the viewers. Also, it made a very good TV viewing. But you always have to think of the safety, of course, of the riders. And I think it wasn't really pushed out. The boat wasn't pushed out too far yesterday. Where we're talking about Crustistas, that is a dangerous descent. We've seen photographs on it. No barriers whatsoever. Putting these nets up, it sounds a bit dangerous and it's getting a bit too crazy. They did say if the weather conditions, if there's a fog or if there's a wet road, if it's going to be raining, it's certainly not going to be on. But still, I think the organiser might be pushing the risk out a bit too far.
Yeah, they are sending they're sending Paolo Salvoldelli to check out the descent and see if it's safe or not, which strikes me as finding it's like saying to Michael Schumacher, is the speed limit enough at 250 miles an hour or whatever it happens to be, because he is well known as a fabulous descender. Maybe a little bit of speed has been knocked off since his retirement, but he certainly would have a different perspective to a lot of these riders here. In fact, he saved a Giro d'Italia in 2005 with the most spectacular descent you could see possible, just absolutely eating up an enormous gap that he'd lost on the ascent of a mountain. He was a spectacular descender. Different riders will have different perspectives on that. There'll be some of them sitting around going, well, if you're sending Salvoldelli, send somebody who's not so good going downhill.
Well, I think there'll be a number of people will be sent out. First of all, a rider with experience, who can descend well. Then you have somebody who is from the safety end of it, and who's looking at that. So there'll be quite a few people who'll go out and check it out, and I think it will be a decision from a group of people that will decide after that. So it will be interesting to see, but I think Contador, he was out training, and he said for him it was the most dangerous descent that he's written down.
Yes, he has said that a number of times, hasn't he? He's been out to check it. We shall have to see exactly what they make of that decision to run it down the Monte Costis. 5 minute break, 3:32. Gap is coming down, and it's Visconti's team who are doing the work on the front now. Three minutes, 21 seconds separates the peloton here. With 62 kilometers to go from a 5-man breakaway. Jussi Väikkönen, Omega Pharma Lotto. Christoph van der Waal of Quickstep, Jaroslav Popovic of Radio Shack, the best man placed in the GC at 5:35. Sasha Modolo of Colnago, and Frederick Verschelen of Vacan Soleil. No, Vacan Soleil got no real need to keep chasing things. Matteo Carrara is the man looking around. But it's nice to see somebody else other than, well, Rabobank also, it's quite nice to see somebody else other than themselves up the front. Giovanni Visconti's team of Farnese Vini doing the work to bring things back together. Visconti's already said 2 or 3 times he wants to do something in today's stage around Lazio. And to show off that national champion's jersey. This is Palestrina. We're not going up the hill, we're just going around the bits at the bottom. Meanwhile, if you want to watch the tennis, catch up with that, it's Schiavone and Hanchikova on Eurosport 2 Live, WTA Championships from Roma. Meanwhile, we stay here on Eurosport and Eurosport HD with the Giro d'Italia. Nice to see Sasha Modolo in this bunch. He's got a pretty good sprint on him. Doesn't Christoph van der Waal have the brake levers up high on his bike? Very sportive, sir. Sasha Modolo has got a good sprint in the Milan-San Remo last year, and he's a good all-round rider. He's only 23 years of age. I think he's got some way to go yet. Man in second spot here. The oldest man in the breakaway is the man at the front, Frederick Verschulen. He'll want to keep staying up there as long as possible. First Giro, and will want to show if he possibly can. So we had a lot of injuries yesterday. I don't know what you all think about yesterday's stage, but even so, it was pretty spectacular. It was fun watching Vincenzo Nibali able to look behind him to see where everybody was, plus still doing 2-wheel drifts on the bike. Just toying with them, he was, just toying with them. Today's stage, just a little bit up and down all the time. Perfect breakaway type stage. 3:08 is the break. It has to be, Sean, that Giovanni Visconti wants to do something today, or at least the Farnese Vini people want to show in today's stage, because they've taken over the pace setting at the front of the peloton from Rabobank.
Yes, and when you look at yesterday, Visconti, he finished 5 minutes 16 down. Was he taking it easy, thinking of today? It's quite possible. The riders, they do that. They say, well, it's not my type of stage today. I cannot, really win this one with the style of road it was. So it's possible that to take it easy and to finish 5 minutes down, and it means a lot. If you sit back there in a group and take that a bit easier, keep your powder dry for today, you could, do a lot of damage in the end of this one. But with the team, I suppose you have, they look at yesterday's finish. Gatto, also the Farnese Vini team, he finished up there in 5th place. So it's possible they think that it's not going to be for the big sprinters. And we did hear, from Cavendish's director sportive, that it might be a bit too difficult for him. And I would agree there. I think the run-in today for the real good sprinters, the top sprinters, it's going to be a bit more difficult. But Gatto yesterday staying up there in that sort of terrain, it tells me that he's that style of rider, can get through these sort of stages as we have today. And the finish, today again, much the same as yesterday, a difficult run-in again, so he could be the man they're riding for within the Farnese Vini team.
I hadn't thought of that, actually. Just read a lot of the things that Visconti was saying. I'd forgotten that Gatto was in good shape yesterday. Oscar Gatto, the cat, so they call him. He finished really well yesterday. Not the best of road surfaces today. Sasha Modolo. A big flick on the back of the bike there as he goes down this descent. I mean, it's not they're not dangerous in that sense, but they're just not particularly great. A lot of roadworks going on. This is a hallmark of the Giro. Get this quite a bit. That's a bit narrow. Certainly when the peloton arrive, it'll be a bit narrower. Now, a lot of people asking, we are going to Mount Etna on Sunday. We are indeed. What say you are they going to do in the Giro d'Italia now Etna's started erupting? If it's just one thing after another, isn't it? Well, they do tell us that the section of Mount Etna that they're using, and they go up Mount Etna twice on Sunday, very difficult climb, is about 4 miles away from, well, where they finish is about 4 miles away from where most of the eruption is happening. It's not a massive eruption. There's a big vent blown in the side of Etna yesterday, and lava has been running out of it, but they've sent a team already to start looking at the roads and start clearing it if necessary when it gets cool enough to clear. It just seems to be one thing after another, Sean, with this Giro d'Italia.
Yes, the team, the safety team is busy at this year's Giro d'Italia. They're just out there ahead and looking at the stage to come. So it is becoming difficult for them. As we see here on our screens there some moments ago, a lot of roadworks as well today, and we were just looking at that earlier on. There was sections of the road all along this route where it was getting narrowing down. It's okay in a situation, the weather good, but if you have wet conditions in the rain and those little descents, they can become very dangerous. And when you come to a section of road where it's just reduced down to 50% of its width, suddenly they're braking going on up front, and the riders behind, they have to brake too severely, and down they go. So it's it becomes they are dangerous sections on all the stages, and it goes on again today. Yesterday, of course, the unsurfaced terrain, but here today there's a lot of sections where there's roadworks. Luckily, the weather is good, so it doesn't cause a problem for them today.
A couple of comments about sending Paolo Savoldelli to check out the Monte Crostis descent. Anthony Tan, one of our fellow journalists out in Australia, saying, I don't know about going slower down the hill. I was thinking of perhaps he'd knocked off a little bit of technique. He is indeed about 10 kilos heavier than he was when he was racing. Well, you get that when you stop having to train all the time. Therefore might go down quicker for you. Yes, cruel, but probably true. Craig Middleton, owner and purveyor of Onyx Bicycles, saying sending Savoldelli to do the descent is like asking Evel Knievel if ramps are safe. Which I think is great. Yes, indeed. Our 5 men then, once again, Vishulan in the back here, 32 years of age now. First time he's been in the Giro d'Italia, so wanting to make this one go as long as possible. Sasha Modolo for Colnago CSF, just ahead in the light blue. Second time he's been in the Giro d'Italia. He's the youngest guy in the breakaway at 23 years of age. Christophe van der Waal is another newbie to the Giro. He's just ahead for Quickstep in blue and white. Then Jussi Vaikkonen, the Finnish national champion for Omega Pharma Lotte. A lot of people ask him what's the bike he's on. I think it's a prototype Canyon, but he's been running it all season though, that particular non-branded. I think it's still got Canyon on it, but it's black on black. And Jaroslav Popovic in the red and white of Radio Shack here. They've got that jersey absolutely right this year. You can see it a mile off. And he is the best placed man on GC, and by far the most experienced man in the breakaway. Starting the day at 5:35 down, and they didn't want that one to get away. Bit optimistic, actually, that he ever tried to get away. What would the other guys in the breakaway be thinking, Sean? I mean, if I was in that breakaway and saw Jaroslav Popovic come across to it, there were 2 men up the road originally, you'd thought, that makes it a whole lot more difficult.
Yes, well, Popovic, he's always a danger one if they get a smell of the finish. And what I mean by that, if they get into the last 25 kilometres with a good advantage of 3 minutes, well then Popovic and the other riders with him, they could be difficult to track down. And when you look at the the route today. It is a difficult one for a team to control because it's up and down all the time, right to the very end. And the question is as well, if you allow the breakaway to take a big advantage and it looks like that, you know, there's no chance of putting them back, well then the other teams are not going to get involved. So that's all the tactical thing you have to consider in the stage today. If you keep them pretty close, and as we can see, you know, the Farnese Vini team taking it up, perfect situation for Rabobank now, because they will just sit back and allow the team to just work on the front. And as you can see, 2:35, no panic at all. So you know, it's the calculation, the tactic that you work out is, you know, very important. And here we have, you know, 55 kilometers to go. The Rabobanks maybe have finished their work for the day.
Presumably, what I was thinking of was when the two guys originally went up the road, UC Viken and Christophe van der Waal, they may have thought, well, hey, this is a perfect day for a breakaway. We could possibly get away. I mean, they were 19:05 and 11:06 respectively on the GC. But when Popovic comes across, he's only at 5:35, and the rest of the peloton are going, we don't want to let the pink jersey get away, especially Rabobank, and they're reeling back in. It is a fine sight, a peloton in full flight. And it's Farnese Vini who are pulling it along at the front. Rabobank thinking, aye, that's good for us. They did most of the work to limit the gap to Jaroslav Popovic this morning, and now they're two jersey wearers, Steven Kruijswijk, and the pink jersey on the shoulders of Peter Wiening, quite happily being sheltered by Farnese Vini. 2 minutes 36 seconds up to the breakaway of these five men. We were trying to look it up. We think, we're pretty certain actually, the last man from the Netherlands to wear a pink jersey in the Giro d'Italia was our colleague from Dutch Eurosport, Jeroen Blijlevens, back in 1999. He won the third stage of the Giro d'Italia that year. Bit of a sprinter, well, not just a bit of a sprinter, very fast sprinter, Jeroen Blijlevens. He had a bit of a shortish career in many ways at the top of his game, mainly through injury, but is now a commentator on Eurosport, and to boot, he's also the director sportive on Marianne Vos's Nederland Bloit team as well. A lot of direct DSs now coming into the women's sport from the men's professional game, and that's quite interesting. It's sort of changed a lot of the way that women's cycling is run, or at least the riders ride. So we think that's the last time that the Dutch had the pink jersey on their shoulders. Jeroen Blijlevens back in 1999. Peter Wiening takes it this time around. He's now got two stages in Grand Tours, one in the Tour de France and one here. Did it in pretty good style too. Now, the interesting thing is, who is looking more and more like the strong men of this year's Giro d'Italia? We haven't got to the mountains yet, but there's some interesting names coming up, especially those who can, in fact, do a good job in the mountains as well. Being paced back up to the front here, clearly had a mechanical problem, is Brett Lancaster, one of the men who didn't like it yesterday. He's won a stage in the Giro. He won a prologue stage. Very fine time trialist, Brett Lancaster. Yesterday, Sean, we had two Colombians up towards the front end of the business end of the race, and one of them at least, well, both of them can climb, but Fabio Duarte is a very good climber indeed. Finished second on the stage yesterday. His countryman Jose Serpa, who's personally a big favourite, finished third on the stage, doing very well.
Yes, I think you know, Serpa could be the one who could see very much up here in the general classification. Yeah, the riders who, you know, who've been up there in stages this year, a very difficult race. The last 10 days is majorly difficult, and it's the terrain for those sort of guys. And when they get through yesterday, I think that would be a difficult day for them. Unsurfaced roads, the downhill especially, they mightn't like it too much, and you know, the problem with mechanical as well. And you know, we see them, they finished up quite well yesterday. So you know, they're all in there with a shout in the general classification, with the race being so difficult. And I think if you see yesterday's stage, for example, Garzelli, he finished very well, considering he had a puncture at quite a late stage, and did a very good job, got back in there and finished with the main group of big favourites.
It's interesting if you look at the odds for riders now, how they've shortened or lengthened after yesterday's stage. It's quite interesting to look at. I mean, you might as well not bother with Alberto Contador. You're lucky if you get anything back. It's 4-6, so that everybody is so keen on Alberto Contador's abilities that you might as well not bother. Vincenzo Nibali, the best you can do with him is 4-1. What else have we got? Michele Scarponi, 11-2. Dennis Menchov at 16s. Igor Anton, 20-1. Joaquim Rodriguez and Roman Kreuziger, both at 25-1. Here we go. This is one that you said might be quite interesting, Sean. And as an outside punt, Emanuele Sella, 80-1.
Yes, another rider, you know, who can climb so well. And if he gets it right and comes into the final week with good shape, well then he's a rider that, you know, could cause a lot of problems to the other big favourites, and he has to be, you know, reckoned at the moment, and getting through, you know, pretty well as the stage yesterday in the general classification. He's only at just over a minute and 1 second, so he's very much in there. And you know, at the end of yesterday's stage, I think, you know, they would say thank God we're over that stage, because the ones to come, the difficult ones, they can get through that very well. The mountaintop finishes, that is their terrain, that's what they love, and he is, you know, one of the ones I think Sella might be worth a few pounds.
Jose Serpa, who I might put a few bob on, I have to say, is at 100-1. That's not a bad shout. 100-1, get a tenner on that. Even 100 quid, if you had 100 quid.
Yes.
If you had 100 quid, that's the thing.
Go the 100.
Go the 100. Yep, you're going to lend me the other 50? He's already clamped the hands on the wallet there. Lundqvist 150-1, best you can get. Duarte, we saw him here. He's climbing really, really well. Probably his time trialing would let him down. 200-1. Cataldo 200-1 after yesterday. Christophe Lamavelle, the best you can get on him. Now that's a good shout. 200-1 for Christophe Lamavelle.
Yes, he's very much up there, and you know, again, that sort of odds, it's a good one. It's been interesting to see over the 3 weeks. I'm not sure will he be able to keep it up. You know, some of the other climbers, we've seen them there, they can win stages in the final week of this race, and they have done, and that is the indicator as well. You know, if you can get through the long 3-week race and be good in the final week, go out and breakaways, win the stage, there's a possibility that you could, you know, stay up there and be very much up in the general classification at the end of these 3 weeks.
Fine work being done by team on the front, Farnese Vini. They're not doing it too much, they're not bringing them back too quickly, they're just keeping the right pace, allowing the break to just stay at just under 3 minutes, between 2.5 and 3 minutes. Bring them back too early, somebody else will go on the attack. So just keep it out there for as long as you need to, and then as time goes on, then they can push on a little bit. There is Martin Kohler, number 34 on the left-hand side of your shot. That just as if by magic. He's doing some work as a domestique today, but yesterday, man of the day for me. Fantastic ride by Martin Kohler. Break pushes on. 2:54 they have at the moment. 46.9 kilometres to go. We have to take a break. One of the newbies in the Giro d'Italia, Frederick Verschillen, goes through. Jaroslav Popovic has been around a long time. Remember great shots of him in 2004, I think it was, descending alongside, I think he had the white jersey at that point, the Best Young Riders jersey, doing a long descent with taking completely different lines to everybody else. His descending was not, I suppose, textbook in terms of entry and exit points, but was quite interesting. He was descending with Damiano Cunego at that point. Jaroslav Popovic, Best Young Rider, was it, in 2003? Third overall at that time at 7 minutes and 11 seconds. And I think it was 2004 where he did those wonderful long overhead shots of himself and Damiano Cunego descending. So Best Young Rider would have been 2003. speaks excellent Italian. Rode for Lombard Credit Colnago, of course. $44K to go. And Farnese Vini, you were asking the question of me, and I didn't have the answer either, Sean. Why have they done the riding so early? Why are they so far out? Any more thoughts? Have you had a bit of time to think about that?
I think they have a number of riders which are capable of doing something. As you mentioned, the Italian champion, of course, he's maybe going to try something, and Visconti. Then they have the rider who was very much up there yesterday, and I suppose
Gatto,
they can feel here he do something, but they're taking it up very early for my liking. Almost 50 kilometers out with a break at 2:54. It was a bit more at that time. I think they're a bit over anxious at the moment to take it up that early. They could have waited and just left the team of Rabobank control for much further into the stage.
This is Roberto Damiani. With all respect to Alessandro Petacchi, the real goal of our team is to put Scarponi in the best position and try and do a fantastic result in Milan in the end. We can't keep controlling every single day. We've had a good result yesterday. Niemek was fantastic. Today's the day for a rider who wants to have a go, wants to try his own chance. So they get a little bit of freedom within the Lampre squad to do something today. Niemek did indeed have a very good ride yesterday. It was fantastic. Roberto Damiani has moved from Omega Pharma Lotto to Lampre. He's well known, Sean, isn't he? He's one of the best people managers within the peloton. He's a very fantastic motivator. I think he could turn Lampre's fortunes around.
Well, he would have the experience in big tours the last number of years with Omega Pharma Lotto, they feel that maybe he can motivate the riders for a 3-week tour, and for that reason, he's taken in the Lampre team. This is his first year there, so it will be interesting to see. Scarponi, of course, he's certainly a big favourite here, and he's a style of rider that never gives up. He gets a difficult day, loses a bit of time, but he's prepared to go on the attack the following day and attack at times when you say maybe a bit too early. The other big favourites might not be expecting it, and he's definitely their big card to play. Petacchi, of course, for stages, but we see yesterday the Lampres, they did take it up and they really pushed it on, and Scarponi did give a big dig in the end, but just not difficult enough for him. It levelled off there with about a kilometre to go, and if it had been a real steep one all the way to the finish, I think Scarponi could have continued on and taken some time from the other big favourites.
Poor old Sasha Modolo looks like he's come to the end of his rag and has suddenly disappeared off the back of the breakaway, which leaves just our four men, Vaikkonen, Van der Waal, Popovic and Verschulen, who's the man doing the pushing on at the moment. Meanwhile, back on the peloton, 2:47 back, it's Farnese Vini who are doing a lot of the work. Oscar Gatto finished very well yesterday, and they want to keep him up there as long as they possibly can. Maybe go for the win today. Plus Giovanni Visconti, they've got 2 or 3 really good riders. They've been very aggressive. Giordani has had a couple of goes already. You can't miss them, can you, in that kit? Actually, for a smaller team, they've done extraordinarily well when you think of all the kit they've got. Those Cipollini bikes are, well, they're pretty nice. They're at the top end of things, one would say. Lightweight wheels. 4 men still pushing on then. There is Alessandro Petacchi. He said he didn't like yesterday at all. But then I think he probably would say that. Not a great fan of that sort of surfacing. Daniele Hondo doing all the policing work for him on the front. 4 men at 2:44. How far will they be allowed to go, Sean? There doesn't seem to be any great rush to track them down yet. 20 kilometres to go, they'll probably start reeling them in proper.
It should be the case that they pull him in, within 20 kilometres. But again, the team, are they going to try and go in the attack at the final 20 kilometres? Are they going to, keep everything for the sprint to try and control it within the Farnese Vini team? And that will be the outcome, how long the break will be left out there. But as you can see, it's coming down quite quickly, and some of the riders having difficulty. Modulo, is he, at the end of his strength, at the end of his energy, or is he just decided, well, what's the point here? We're going to get another 20 kilometres out of this, a bit more airtime on TV, but it's going to take a lot of energy out of me, and still almost 3 weeks to go in this race, 2.5 weeks. Maybe he's decided just to knock it off and allow himself to be pulled back by the bunch.
And bouncing over the side of the road for Saxo Bank. The man doing all the work at the front at the moment for Farnese Vini is Giordani. Strong team though. Visconti, the national champion. Giordani, Leonardo Giordani, Oscar Gatto, Matteo Rabottini, Luca Mazzanti. He's been around for a fair old while. He had a crash yesterday. Ella Favilli, and the super experienced Andrea Noi, who's also doing big pulls on the front as well, and Davide Ricci Biti. Andrea Noi has had more Giro than you can, or Giri, so you can shake a stick at under his belt. Schillen flicks the elbow, and Jaroslav Popovic comes through to take his turn. Schillen just knocks it back a little bit so he can get onto the back. Some time to recover. He's beginning to look a bit tired. 2 minutes and 46 is the gap, and we are running into Fiuggi today. Under 40k to go then. If any of these riders are wearing city shoes they prepared earlier. 2:49 is the gap, and on the front it's Farnese Vini. Trying to bring it back together at some point for who knows who. Could be Visconti, could be Gatto, could be a number of riders who want to have a go. We're back on normal tarmac today after yesterday's Strade Bianchi. It's not the only section off-road that we'll be seeing in this year's Giro d'Italia, or it might be, you never know. The Monte Crostis descent, which part of it is off-road, they are humming and hawing now as to whether they should put it in, considering the terrible tragedy of Walter Weyland's death 3 days ago. Just out of interest, I noticed, and I cannot remember who produced the t-shirt. I'm sure you will find it, and I will look it up very shortly, and somebody I'm sure will send me a link. An American company is already producing a charity t-shirt with number 108 on it, with the 108, sorry, with the 0 raised, like and a line underneath it, just like the Leopard Trek logo. So all in black with the white lettering. Somebody's got the link to hand. Please do post it on Twitter. Spokesmen it is, Spokesmen, but the proceeds from those t-shirts will of course go to Walter Weyland's family. And I understand that the Giro d'Italia are going to retire the number 108 permanently, which is a nice gesture. We did talk about it the day afterwards. Well, the brake is piling on the pressure on these little downhills, and therefore the peloton is having to respond, flicking from left to right. Not absolutely, completely Harry flat as yet, but the brake has pulled out another 20 seconds or so, and still working well together. Strong men in that breakaway though, Sean. We've lost Sasha Modulo, but Frederick Verschillen, the Vacansoleil boys always tend to be pretty strong in breakaways. Jaroslav Popovic, Christoph van der Waal, big strong rider, the quick step rider, and Jussi Väikkönen, who's used to being in breakaways as well.
Yes, well, I think they're all contributing pretty much pretty well to the breakaway, and this it's going quite well considering the main bunch is going at a very fast pace and has been now for quite a number of kilometres, and the gap is coming down slowly. It's going to be a difficult one for the AC team, to pull it back. First of all, they're going to make a big effort here, and then to control the race as well in the end. They're going to have to do that. Maybe as they're going to have a go and push riders into breaks, but that's always difficult when you get into the last 20 kilometres, which they will be. Again, they catch them now. Really difficult to get out of the bunch because there's a lot of teams, a lot of riders thinking, well, I can have a go at this stage victory. I can finish uphill very well, and that makes it difficult to create a breakaway at that stage in the race. So it's going to be a difficult one for them to get anything out of this, I feel. The problem is in the general classification. The other situation is, I think, Weaning from the Rabobank team, they would prefer the breakaway just to hang out there with a number of minutes, because now we're into a situation, the general classification, Pinotti, Sitsu from the High Roads HTC team, Nevegal, he's at 5 seconds in the general classification, so they all become danger, because if they get up in the sprint and take some of the bonifications, well, then the Weaning could end up losing the jersey. So it's become a complicated situation for the Rabobanks as well, which they would prefer not to get into that situation, allow the breakaway to go out and hold on maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and all the bonifications are taken up by the breakaway riders.
These are the 4 remaining riders. Sacha Mordelot is now 40 seconds down on these riders, being really driven on by Jaroslav Popovic. He started the day at 5:35 down. I knew it'd all come up trumps. Thanks very much. Stomach of Anger are the company who produced the t-shirt. Stomach of Anger. I will retweet one of your many links. Thank you very much. If you wanted to purchase one of the t-shirts, right, here we go. Retweet, done. There we are. So I've now retweeted one of those links. They're all the same, so thank you very much for doing that. I couldn't remember who it was. Giordani wants to push on a little bit. .245. Maybe they're thinking we have to really get the sprint under control now. Christophe Andeval was struggling a little bit to stay with his breakaway companions just now, but he's now got Quick Step and Quick Step's car next to him, just giving him the instructions of what we're going to be doing. Talking about the situation. Popovic looking very strong indeed, and Deshunen not letting up either. So while twisting and turning here. Oh, the merry squeal of brake as they descend down here. A number of people asking, well, why is it that we're seeing a lot of riders these days putting deep section wheels on the back and normal section wheels on the front? Well, there is some evidence actually that they're not quite as, it's not quite as aero as they thought, or useful as they thought, putting big deep section rims front and rear, but everybody's divided about their opinions of that. But it certainly adds for braking purposes. If you put a smaller section rim on the front, especially an aluminium one, braking is a little more progressive. It usually happens when the weather's bad and not when the weather's dry. All these guys running, what, 50s, 55s? Van der Waal has had his chat with the team car. It's interesting the way all these bikes are typically set up. Jaroslav Popovic with the anatomic bars, big, deep drop on it. If you look at Christophe Andeval, there's Sacha Mordelot just stuck in the middle here. Old style bend for Sacha Mordelot on the bars there. If you look at Van der Waal, when we get back to the breakaway, you'll see he's got quite deep drops on it, but the levers are almost right up on the top. Other riders, very shallow sections on the shallow drops on the bars. Now, it was a fashion for a while to have almost no drop at all, really very slight, which I quite like personally. 2:39 the gap, causing a few problems, that push downhill for some of the riders in the peloton here, Sean.
Yes, we can see the reason. It's been quite technical there, and when they're pushing at such a fast rate, it gets pulled out a bit on the rear. But again, they'll all just come back together as we get onto the flatter section here. But 35 kilometres to go, to 39 at the moment. They are upping the tempo out front. There are 4 leaders at the moment, and it's causing it a little bit more difficult, I think, for the Farnese Vini team to close this one down. And it's going to take a lot out of the team. It's going to be another hectic final, because we're getting to that stage now where they should catch it, the breakaway, and then it will be a lot of action, because there will be a lot of teams with the idea they can take the stage victory here. So it will be an action-packed final 20 kilometres.
It's going to be. This is the team that thinks they can do something. Farnese Vini. Push on, lads. That's what they're doing. And good day for Rabobank in the end. They had to do a lot of the work early, but they've disappeared completely from the front pretty much now, Sean. They don't have to be there.
No, a lovely situation to be in, because in the earlier part of a tour, to control the race, you need a very strong team to do it. Rabobank are riding well. We see that yesterday they had quite a lot of riders up there of the action in that final 40 kilometres of the race. But when you start controlling it at this point, well, then the race gets long as you go on. The second week and the third week can get very difficult. So it is important that you calculate very well, work your tactic well, that you do the minimum when you have the race leader jersey, and that's what they are doing at the moment, and it's working out well for them today.
That's a lovely shot. Running into Fiuggi today. This is Lazio, just to the east of Rome. And these provinces hugely linked to the Papal States, of course, unsurprisingly, not very far from Rome. The Fiuggi itself is a spa town. Way back in the 13th century, I think they started dealing with the water there. I think I read 13th century somewhere, but I was unaware, to be honest, that it had a history as a spa town, but now I know. Daniele Napolitano right up there. It's been going quite well in this Giro d'Italia, to be fair to him. Andrea Noi in our shot. And they are working well on the front. They've got to do a little more riding there. The breakaway is working very well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 riders from Farnese Vini. We're discounting, of course, Oscar Gatto. Andrea Noi's not come to the front for a while to do any work. And Visconti is their team leader. And they're one man at the back here, but so 5 against 4, and they're not really cutting down the gap too much. They're clearly putting a little bit of effort in. Average race speed today, there we are at the bottom, 41.441 kilometres now. 2:45 is the gap, 28 kilometres to go. They're riding pretty hard on the front. The entire team pretty much there now for Farnese Vini. They're not really making too much of an impression, one has to say. Jaroslav Popovic, Jussi Vaikkonen, Christoph Andeval and Fredrik Verschelen. Here they are. Modelo has been blown out of the bag and is now stuck in no man's land and will soon be eaten by the peloton. I'm not sure they're doing enough at the front here. Other teams will have to come and do some work, I think, Sean.
Well, I think they need some other teams to come, because Farnese is having difficulty. As we can see, it's starting to hover there at that 240, 245. Is not coming down like it was some kilometres further down the road. So it is going to be a difficult looking one at the moment for them to be able to close it down. And the moment they took it up, it seemed to be that it wasn't going to be as difficult, and certainly for me it looked like that they could take it down easily. But again, out front, they calculated the breakaway. They were just keeping a bit in reserve, and when they get into that last 30-35 kilometres, they've upped the pace, and they've certainly done that, because we can see the 4 leaders at the moment, and the breakaway, the bunch, it's pushing on big time, and they're not eating into the advantage as they were, and that tells me that, yes, up front now, they're just going to keep on piling under pressure on 4 leaders.
I think they are just going to go as hard as they possibly can, for as long as they possibly can, and who would blame them? Looks like they may well be able to stay out there at the moment. Now, interestingly, it is Chris Winter saying, I used to live in Fiuggi, I now live in Australia. I'm good friends with Agnoli and Pirazzi. Watch out for Pirazzi today in the final kilometres. Wants to do something. Pirazzi riding for Stefano Pirazzi, riding for Colnago CSF. Valiero Agnoli rides for Liquigas. I think Liquigas' Agnoli will have other jobs to do, unfortunately. Pirazzi, well, we haven't seen anything of him, really, in this year's Giro, but interesting. Thanks, Chris. Jaroslav Popovic, flick of the elbow, universal symbol for a rider to come through and do their turn at the front. I've had enough there. They don't always do it, but that's the symbol. Sometimes you see them waving their arms out wildly like chickens, trying to get riders to come past, but they won't. In this sort of situation, though, they're just going to ride and ride and ride. Sure, they're going to keep riding together all the time, no messing about.
No, they can't afford to mess about. Into this final 30 kilometres, you just keep on pushing, do your share on the front and peel off. And some riders do give a flick at the elbow, just to maybe do a little bit less. But because if you keep on riding on the fronts and you're going at a good pace, well then the rider behind would just stay in your slipstream for that bit longer. So to get him to come around you, it shortens it. You're pull on the front a little bit, and it all pays in the end of the day, because they've been out there for a long time, and the little bit more of energy you've left in the end, it could count a lot in the final kilometres.
2:40 is the gap. The pink jersey's had a fairly good ride today. Pavel Brut taking on Bottles, doing his job as a water carrier here. Very important. The record's something daft like 16 bidon. It's the race face. Face of pain. There's Andrea Noi. I think this is either his 14th or 15th Giro d'Italia. Oh dear. Hard day in the saddle for Robbie. Not managing to stay with the pace today, Sean. I would suggest there's probably something wrong. He's probably not feeling in the best of shape, Robbie McEwen. Wouldn't normally have a problem staying at this sort of pace. No,
should not have a problem. And I was just wondering there, the first shot, I was saying to myself, is he going to the car? But he's going a long ways back through the cavalcade. An experienced rider like Robbie, you just put up your hand and get the car called up to be just behind the race director's car, the red car immediately behind the bunch. So it's not looking good for Robbie there, the way he's just losing contact there, because at this stage, in the race first of all, and the difficulty here we can see is not majorly. It looks like he has more than a tiredness problem. He seems to have something else is causing a problem there.
Yep. Not feeling particularly well, maybe, but certainly look to be in trouble there. Riders trying to get back after having had to go back to the car for one reason or another. Graham Brown is the man in your shot. The sprinter, the Australian sprinter for Rabobank, who is in fact the last man on general classification. Haven't seen much of him, Graham Brown, even in the sprints. But he's a man who knows Italian racing quite well. He rode for Penaria for quite a number of years when they were wearing their bright orange kit. Under the 25 kilometre to go banner then come our 4 remaining breakaway man. Jaroslav Popovic of Radio Shack at the head of this little quartet. Then Jussi Väikänen, Christoph van der Waal coming through, the quick step rider. First Giro d'Italia, wants to do something in it. Then Fredrik Verschulen, also first time, although he's 32 years of age, for Verschulen. the Vakon Soleil rider. The last man still in the break is the Finnish national champion, Jussi Vaikkonen, riding for Omega Pharma Lotto. They did have Sasha Modolo with them, but he's somewhere in the middle. Saxo Bank very keen to keep Contador out of trouble. There's a lot of that going on now. They've been fairly attentive all the way through the Giro so far, Sean, keeping Contador way up towards the front.
Yes, well, they have been doing a good job. We've seen them at the crucial times when they need to be, around their leader, just doing the job and just keep him up there. And, again, for any of the favourites yesterday that finished up well, and they all finished, in very close together, not far off the winner. Of course, they only lost 8 seconds, and that wasn't, a worry or a problem at all. So. All doing a good job, the teams and the leaders, all in contention at the moment.
Giovanni Visconti getting a bottle while he can. 20 kilometres to the cut-off point. Not allowed to offer up any food or drink at any point after that, unless the race organisers say we shall do so. So if there's any special circumstances, they might well do that. It's pretty hot today, 26, 27 degrees.
And causing a problem to get drinks, because we've seen the other riders going back. Normal situation here, the bunch would be going along at a little bit of a slower rate, and you could go back to the car and take a number of bottles. But here it is causing difficulty. We see Brown there. He seemed to be going back to the car, but he didn't seem to have any bottles on the way back. But it's a big difficulty here to go back, as we can see here. A lot of teams looking, because we're coming to that 20 kilometre mark, and it's a day that you don't like to have to go back for your bottles. If you're the one who's a designated rider, you're going to really have to make an effort to get back into the front of the bunch.
Popovic, best young rider in the Giro d'Italia back in the past, and Robbie McEwen making it up towards the back of the peloton here. So clearly he had to go back to the car for something. And he's now tucked in behind Giovanni Visconti. The two Lamprey riders just behind him are Nimiec, the Polish, Nimiec was the rider just behind him. Nimiec wanting to do very, very well yesterday, which he did, of course. Terrific yesterday. Sky bringing riders up to the front now. It's quite a drag up towards the finish, a little lump beforehand as well, which they will be rapidly approaching, I would imagine. And this is going to be interesting. Some riders opting to take the long way around, possibly not the best way, especially if you're at the front of the peloton. You end up somewhere near the back. Sasha Modolo is caught then. His day is over. Liquigas, Sky, Lamprey, all riders from the big teams coming towards the front now as we get towards the end, keeping themselves out of trouble. Popovic looking very strong today, Sean. He's looked good all day.
He certainly is, and yesterday we see a little bit of that. He gave a little bit of a dash there out in front and was going at a very good rate, but there was an immediate reaction behind, and I think he said no point in continuing on this one. Knocked it back, finished quite a bit down yesterday, but thinking of today's stage, and he is really powering on the pressure here, and he looks like the most aggressive rider, the strongest rider out here at the moment. We have a little bit of a slowdown here in the bunch for the time being, but as you said, we're coming to a section as well where it kicks up a bit, and a lot of movement on the front end of the bunch as well, and the teams, they'll just try and get the fresh bottles here very quickly, because coming to that 20 kilometres, and also with this climb you have to get up there quickly, because otherwise on the climb itself you could find yourself quite a ways off in the bunch, and to make it up to your leader right in the front of the bunch, if you don't do it quickly now before the climb, well then you might never see them until the finish again.
2:02 is the gap. Popovic continues to drive on the front of the breakaway with Verschulen straight behind him. Now, if those four did get to the line, Sean, my money would probably be on Jussi Vaikkonen, although Van der Waal's got a fairly good sprint on him as well. Vaikkonen probably the fastest in a straight-out sprint between the four of them. So I doubt if they'll try and take him there.
Well, again, it's going to be very, very tight. 21 kilometres under the 2 minutes, and the calculation we make, 1 minute per 10 kilometres. But again, this run-in and the final itself, it's a difficult one. On a flat final 20 kilometres, you would say the four has a good chance of staying out there, but it's not as good with the terrain we've got to get over today, and there's surely somebody on this little climb or coming to at the moment. There will be attacks, and if that's the case, they're going to have to continue riding together. The four out front hang on out there, and when it comes to a sprint today, with the finish we've got, it's going to be the man with the more power left, and that is the big question. Popovic looks that way, but they could have other ones there who are, as they say in bike terms, glass cranking a little bit, not showing it, and they could be the dark horse. So you just never know in the breakaway, but Popovic, wants to keep it going, because if you do not really push it on here, well then, as we're losing one of our four at the moment, is that Vaikkonen?
That is Vaikkonen, yep. They're pushing on, and Vaikkonen is finding it difficult to maintain the pace. Movistar have started to bring riders up towards the front. They've got one in the chasing line now. So we're down to 3. 1:49 is the gap as Jaroslav Popovic digs in, with Fredrik Verschulen straight behind him. Well, they've upped the pace pretty quickly at the back here. I would suggest that gap is going to tumble fairly fast now, Sean, because they are pushing on, and if Movistar get in on the act as well, it'll just disappear.
Yes, it will melt down quickly, and the problem is, you lose a man out front, as we see. Vaikkonen just struggling at the moment, and if he does make it back into the four leaders, he is weakening a bit, and that tells us that the power is gone, and it's not good out front. You need all four really to work well together, and as we can see in the front of the bunch, new teams, new riders starting to appear, and fresh men, and coming down 1:45 at the moment with around the 20 to go. It's not looking good for our breakaway.
Cavendish is the man on the red and black Venge there, designed by McLaren for HTC. "20 kilometres roughly to go. 1:42 now is the gap. The pressure's coming on. There is Mr. Cavendish, and he will begin his being looked at by Lars Bak, I think it is, looking over his shoulder and just saying, okay,
boss,
I'll make sure you're there.
Get on the bus.
This is Visconti pushing away on the front. Right, directly after the what's going to be a thrilling finish here. It's the under-17 semi-finals, Denmark versus Germany, live on Eurosport 2. We'll join it live on International directly after this coverage of the Giro d'Italia. It's looking less and less likely for our 3 remaining breakaway riders. Verschulen at the front, for Wacker and Soleil in the middle. It's Jaroslav Popovic, and at the back it's Van der Waal. I've just lost the picture from the race there for a second. This is the finish at Fiuggi, but it is looking a bit less likely now. Under 20 kilometres to go, and the gap has come down about 20 seconds in the last 2 kilometres.
Yes, it's coming down, and we can see why. New riders coming to the front. Visconti taking it up there. He hasn't been really riding with the team that much, so he's going to really push on the pressure on the climb itself, and that's where the gap comes down. So I think, yes, It's a struggle here for the riders out in front to hold on, and we also see on the rear end of the bunch, I think Mark Cavendish also have difficulty clinging on in there. He seems to be very much to the rear, and it doesn't look like it's going to be the day for him, as we see Perazzi having a go here.
Well done, Chris Winters, for saying that. Chris Winters from Australia, one of our regular viewers, said he used to live in Fiuggi and knows this man very well. He wants to do something today, and there we are. Stefano Perazzi, local man, gives it a go with 20 kilometres to go. Spot on, sir. Well done. Will he be allowed to get away? He's got a decent gap.
I don't think it'll be easy to get out of this bunch. We can see, you know, so much action there from the Farnese team, and there's other teams starting to appear now as we get inside 20 kilometres to go. You know, there's a lot of action at the front of the bunch. We can see it here. So for anybody right away at this time, it's very highly unlikely.
Well, we've got 18.4 kilometres on the ticker, and they've just gone under the 20 kilometre to go banner, so you pays your money, you takes your choice. Popovic streaming down here, absolutely giving it everything he possibly can. Full beans being thrown at it by Jaroslav Popovic as the peloton gets under the 20 kilometre to go banner. It's the 18 kilometres, they say, for the front of the race, 20 for these guys. But I think the gap is possibly a little less than that. Christophe Andeval gets to the front. I'm pretty impressed by this guy today. He's done a good job. All three of them have, actually. Popovic has been in this sort of situation many, many times, but in a big Giro, big tour stage, the two men with him have never been here before. Impressive. Well, they've got everything to go for now, and it's amazing, isn't it, Sean? We've had a Giro of tragedy so far, but once the bracing head gets back on, they give it absolutely everything.
Yes, everything, and you know, we see yesterday a great stage, magnificent final 40 kilometres, and again today it's as we you know, forecasted about 50% into the stage, it was going to be a great final 20 kilometres, and it's happening right on our screen. The three out front are working well. Van der Walle is, you know, strong on the flatter sections. Popovic seems to be on the uphill sections. He seems to be the one who's setting the pace, but when they get on the flatter sections, all three seem to be sharing very well for the moment. You know, 16 kilometres to go. It's all to play for. There's nothing you can do here. Just keep on working, give it your 100%, and see how far you can get. See can you make it to the final.
This guy's doing a good job. This is Stefano Perazzi. He's a local guy. Our viewer in Australia, Chris Winters, said, hey, you know what, Stefano Perazzi wants to do something today. Well, you weren't wrong, sir. The rest of them streaming down. If he's going to make it across, he's going to have to work jolly hard, is Stefano Perazzi. I think that is Salvordelli actually on the back of that motorcycle. Paolo Salvordelli doing the onboard commentaries for Rai, a job that Laurent Jalabert does for the French stations during the Tour de France. Somebody wrote in and said, well, it would be great if you guys could do it. Well, who would do it from the commentary box then?
I would not fancy the job. On the rear of a motorbike coming down those descents.
You love it.
I'm afraid not.
You've been on the back of a motorcycle with me. It was all right, wasn't it?
Yes, but we were, you know, driving casually. But when you come down the descents, when you see the riders doing 70 and 80 kilometres an hour, and the motorbike cannot stay ahead, so you have to have a lot of confidence in your driver, and just to sit on the rear of a motorbike, a bike rider, you know, you can go downhill very well. You're in control. You know what you're doing yourself. But when it's in the hands of somebody else, it's a different situation. Same as in a car, when a person is driving, you know, they're great drivers, but the moment they take the passenger seat, sometimes they can be nervous, and it's much the same on a rear seat of a motorbike.
Which is a very tactful way of saying you don't trust me, really. But no, it is a terribly difficult job to do. especially when you can't stay away from some of the riders. It's very, very difficult. They're very skilled. Somebody else coming out of the front of the peloton. Too far away to see who it is at the moment. This is Vikinen waiting. I think probably it could have been Vikinen being picked up. Nope, still somebody out ahead. Jussi Vikinen, who was in the original breakaway. Long day in the saddle for nothing, unfortunately for him. There is Stefano Pirazzi. Still not managing to get away though. BMC had such a good day yesterday, having another dig today with Matthias Frank. One Swiss rider yesterday to another one today, and Pirazzi is just up the road. Pirazzi is just about to pass Jussi Vikinen, still trying his hardest, the local man. Pirazzi's not had a bad season actually. He was third in Settimana Coppi e Bartoli. He's a good time trialist as well. Got a 7th in the Tour of Sardinia on one of the stages. Just have a quick look back at what he's done this year. So he's had a pretty good season. As you say, Sean, it's going to be dreadfully difficult to stay away. I think he knows that as well. He's almost got that look of resignation on his face now that, oh well, I've given it a good dig. I haven't got far enough of a gap. I'll just keep going, but I don't think I'm going to make it any further.
Well, I think it was just to make the attack on home side, close to his home area. He was making the calculation, this is my only chance if I could go in the attack here, because if I wait for the very final number of kilometres when the race is going at full bore, I'll not be able to do it. So for Pirazzi, he just said, I'll just go here, I'll get a bit of airtime, and the people, my supporters will see me on TV. Matthias Frank, I don't know what he's thinking about either, because he must think he's Fabian Cancellara to ride away off the front end of the bunch here. When you see the way the bunch is riding, you're going to get a couple of kilometres out of it here, but what is the gain? It's going to be very, very little.
13 kilometres and 1 minute 17. They have no real choice now. They're just going to wind it on and on and on as hard as they can. They must hurt like hell now. Just continuing to try and push on. Stefano Pirazzi is a little bit up the road and not getting too much further. And we're looking down on the peloton, all fairly tranquilo, not worrying too much. Liquigas out at the back here. Impressive ride by these guys, but they're all big, strong riders. And now Movistar taking up the charge here on the front. The pace-making. David Arroyo finished very well yesterday. Pablo Lastras has been in very good form. Today could be a day for a man like Ventoso, for example.
Or possibly Lastras, who is very much up in the general classification, and at 22 seconds. Maybe he feels that the ones ahead will have difficulty in the final today. The other 3-4 men ahead of him. Why are they riding? That is the reason, I think, why to take it up at the moment. So the teams, they look at the situation and possibly a chance of taking the race leader jersey here. They seem to be going for that from the Movistar team.
Van der Walle, Veschilen and Popovic. Possibly a little of the energy going out of this breakaway now. They look a little bit as though their force is just ebbing away. They're still working well together. but they look like men who've been out in the breakaway for the last 200 kilometres. Popovic still pushing around a fairly big gear compared to the others. And this is Perazzi, local boy. The peloton just letting him dangle out there. That's not a problem, even if he realises he can't get across, he's got some air time. Now the gap, it's going to come down with well, pretty quick now. 11 kilometers still to go, and it's a reasonably testing run up into Fiuggi today, Sean. It rises for the best part of 10 kilometers. It's a big, well, not big old drag, but it's a steady old drag up, and there's a tunnel to go through, or a gallery in this case, and some twisting, turning, rising up into Fiuggi itself. In the last 2 kilometres, well, it's like 3 kilometres in fact, we've got right-hand bend followed by left-hand bend followed by left-hand 90-degree bend, and then a run up into Fiuggi itself. So it's going to be, everybody's going to be jostling for places fairly soon.
Yes, well, it starts to gradually kick up from the 10 kilometres out, and it's all about, you know, keeping a good position. Anybody is thinking have a go for the stage victory, they have to stay in that top 25 riders here. The general classification men also have to stay up there, because there is going to be a lot of gaps in the final here, and you know, the final run to the line as well, it kicks up quite a lot, so it is going to be nervous times here. For the moment we're on the big large road, you know, you can just sit back a little bit there, but as we get a bit further up here, they're really going to have to, you know, keep the position right, and the teams will be, you know, position their men, and we'll see that a lot of movement, the teams just taking them into the front, and certainly before the final kilometre, where it does kick up, and the risk of gaps appearing and losing a number of seconds, they're all really worried about that.
Scarponi from Lamprey just keeping himself up towards the front. Sebastian Lang has got onto the front now, pace setting for Omega Pharma Lotto. Interesting to see that they've managed to bring themselves up to the front. Vikinen they've already had out in the break today. Maybe they feel that this is a day for a rider like an Adam Blythe. Yes,
it could be, and again, you know, yesterday he finished quite a long way off, but you know, did he just go for an easier day, and looking further on today's stage, maybe he feels he could do something. Barkelands also, maybe he could do something. Last year in the Giro he was, you know, very aggressive in a lot of the stages in breakaways. This type of finish, he's that style of rider, a little bit of a punchy rider. Is he in good enough shape? But they must, you know, think they have got somebody within the Omega Pharma Lotto team, because to pull it on this moment, although, you know, sometimes the riders from the team, there's no team tactic at all, and just, you know, one of them goes to the front and rides for some reason.
We've got 2 or 3 men up there, so presumably it's time to make a move for them. Under the minute mark, well under the minute mark now. 46 seconds with 9.6 kilometres to go. Nothing left for Popovic, Verschulen and Van der Waal to do except just bury themselves now and stay out there as long as possible. Riders getting tailed off just a little bit as Verschulen goes through. 32 years of age now. Just about 9 kilometres, and there's a whole bunch of riders just losing contact now, 1s and 2s here and there. The drive is now coming from Omega Pharma Lotto on the front. The big jersey of Peter Wiening has had a relatively easy ride today. Oh, and look at this. Van der Waal has decided to go it alone. That's not going to please the other too much. But I think he's had to make that decision at some point fairly shortly, Sean, that he has to think, well, we've got over 9 kilometres to go, or had got over 9 kilometres to go, and we're well under a minute. Decided to up the pace. To be fair, though, he's not really gone super hard. He's attacked a little bit, and you'd have expected maybe those two could go with. He's given them the opportunity to go with him if they can. Well, sort of.
I'm not sure if he's given the opportunity.
But you know what I mean? I mean, he could say, well, I did look behind, and there's...
Yeah, he gave a look over and he said, OK, guys, I'm going to attack, but if you haven't got the legs, and Popovic have done a good turn at the front, and, you know, I think Van der Walle, we've seen him earlier on, he hasn't really been maybe giving it his best, where Popovic, I feel, he's given it a bit more. So he has, you know, spared a bit, and he's looking good here. And you know, it's deceiving here at the moment. We are going uphill, and when you're on your bike here, this really hurts. And at the end of a stage, a long breakaway, you know, the pain is big time here. But Van der Walle decides to go on his own. Again, not sure, you know, if it's the right thing to do. Situation, if I was a director of sport here, I would say just keep on riding with Popovic. He's looking strong at the moment, and get into that final, you know, 2 or 3 kilometres. And if you're feeling good at this moment, well, you know, at the 4 or 5 kilometres for the finish, you're still going to have quite good legs left, and there you can do a lot of damage. But maybe he's just taking it up too early. It will be interesting to see, because we have a lot of teams starting to show their face on the front of the bunch here.
Certainly have. Acqua Sapone for Stefano Garzelli, Movistar, well, could be for a number of riders, could be for Arroyo, could be for Lastras. Both of them are going particularly well. Could even be for Kirienka, who knows, although his main job is to work for other people. Jürgen van der Walle, first time at the Giro, he's off by himself now at the front with 7.8 kilometres to go. He dropped his 2 breakaway companions. He's only had the 1 victory, as you saw from the little tablet on the left-hand side. That was with Top Sport Vlaanderen. When he was with them, he won a race in Switzerland, which I can't remember the name of, but that was 2 years ago. Let's have another dig, shall we? Go on, Stefano. Give them hell.
And we can see on the rear end of the bunch, the bus tickets are on big demand.
Absolutely. The conductor will be by for fares shortly, as our 2 breakaway men are swept up. This is Van der Walle out by himself. Tell you what, if you wanted to get away from the peloton, you could have picked a slightly easier gear to do it in. Pirazzi's in the biggest gear he could possibly drive. Gets the grand total of about 3 metres. Seven kilometres to go for this young man. First time in the Giro d'Italia. Good time trialist, though. Belgium doesn't have a massive amount of time trial riders, but he was top 10 in the Belgian time trial championships. Miller having another go. Well, he is very, very aggressive, isn't he, David Miller? He's determined to get something out of this. Got turned over by the rest of the peloton big style yesterday. Lost a packet on the run in. Of course, he had crashed, and that made it difficult for him to achieve anything. And Miller trying to get away from the peloton. They're really having to chase hard to get him back. And going with him to do the policing job from Lampre is Marco Mazzano, and now Radio Shack pulling and pulling and pulling to bring him all back together again. Well, it was a good effort, but it's neither of those riders are getting anywhere, I don't think. There's the big jersey, Peter Weening, nobody around him at the moment. This is pretty nervous. It's Beckelands again for Omega Pharma Lotto. He tried to go, has tried to go along, but they're not getting anywhere at all. 36 seconds for Jürgen van der Walle. He's going to have to use all his time trialling skills to stay away from this one.
Yes, and I think his time trialing skills would be a big help if it was going the other way downhill. He would have a chance of holding on. But you know, uphill, you know, your time trialing it does help when you're out here. But when you've been out all day, you know, the power is starting to leave you, and this run-in, as we can see here, it is, you know, a real difficult one. Just gradually uphill all the time. Very difficult to keep it going against a big bunch of riders breathing down your neck.
Robert Kieselowski having a dig on the front now. They're all lining up. It's almost like the beginning of a stage.
Hopefully there's no park van here, because Kieselowski, he did end up under it, as we see. He was the man in Paris-Nice. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah, he did. Yeah,
it was very frightening when we see that pictures on that very treacherous.
Well, it was we saw De Gregorio make the most massive save, a double slide, and save it in the wet on the penultimate stage of Paris-Nice. And then the director cut away, and the next shot that we got was an Astana rider lying underneath a van, and it was Robert Kieselowski. Matthias Frank once again having a go. They're all at it. It's carnage. It's a third and fourth cat race at Hillingdon. They're everywhere. Here we come through the tunnel for Van der Waal. Oh, he's really beginning to suffer here, and Matthias Frank is giving it everything. All these guys are on the rivet now, and there's going to be masses of people strung out down the road.
Rabon from HTC. But it tells me that there's not a team riding on the front and giving it full gas. They're all looking at each other, all playing the waiting game, and that, you know, presents the opportunity for riders to go in the attack. If there was a team really riding, giving 100%, it would be impossible to attack to get out of the front end of the bunch at all. But they can see, you know, still 5 kilometres to go, 25 seconds. They're just playing the waiting game. They know their sole leader, or the leader up front, on his own. He's not going to hold on out there, so they're just waiting, and nobody wants to take it up too early.
Nice local support for both Stefano Pirazzi and, in the memory of Vaillant. I bet they're glad they're not going over that. Slightly easier to go under it on the run into Fiuggi today. Under 5 kilometres to go then, and we wait for the peloton to come out the other side, where meanwhile Christophe Van der Waal has already done so. He's only got 25 seconds in hand. He's giving it everything he possibly can in time trialling mode, but it looks like his legs are turning a little bit slower than they would have been. Oh, more attacks coming. Now it's Androni. This is a good time to attack, especially a rider from Androni that perhaps doesn't have a real chance in the overall. He's certainly using the full width of the road, one would say. I'm not quite sure why, but he is. That's more like it. Just get up behind the motorcycle if you can. Everybody looking at that one. And it's Sella. Emanuele Sella, who started the day 80-1 on the betting, and Sella has gone for this one. Not a man I would suggest is good to get away. Don't let him get away and get too many seconds. This is a big effort, and nobody seems to be thinking about shutting it down yet. Van der Waal is going to have a small Italian right up his backside very shortly, and zipping past him. Two men come to join Sella. Not getting as far as it looked as though it might do. It was a big attack, but the peloton suddenly reacting. Lots and lots and lots of digs. Oh, sorry, Jurgen van der Waal. I was going to say, it's not Jurgen van der Waal, it's the other one, Christoph van der Waal. Almost within touching distance of the rest of them, and one team after another firing a man off, and it being brought back. Nobody being able to snap that elastic and get away yet. This time it's Carmen Cervelo, and it looks like Miller once again who is pushing on. 2.5 kilometres to go, and they're all just massing for an enormous, great big sprint here, Sean.
Yes, we can see there's a lot of riders, you know, just on the front end of the bunch, top 20, 25, and just playing the waiting game. Other ones, like Miller, for example, you know, he feels he has to go a bit further out because in a straight-out sprint he doesn't have that explosive kick, and you know, it's going to be an interesting one. Who the team is going to take it up here? It looks like Lamprey. We can see the colours there very much to the fore. We could see them really just to wind it up in this final 2 kilometres.
This is great. Look, there is Christoph van der Waal. 1.9 kilometres to go. He's going to get caught. He's got his head down. He's done everything he possibly can. And exactly the right thing to do. But this is a massively speeding peloton. They're just going to swamp him any second. Went away from the rest of his breakaway companions. Just under 9 kilometres to go. And the question is, who is going to take up the charge here? They're all over the shop. Looks like De Luca coming up around the outside for Katusha. And now Sky take on a bit of pace setting at the front. Gioni was right up there.
And Pataki is still there.
Pataki is there, yep, third in line at the moment. Giovanni Visconti fighting to try and maintain some sort of place. Looks to me as that's Ventoso just behind Pataki. Ventoso, it was then who all the work was being done for by Movistar, and Visconti's thought, that's it, I can't do anything there. Maybe he was waiting for Oscar Gatters. That is the 1 kilometre to go. Kite looking over the shoulder of Vakonsola. You have Barut Bozic in behind Alessandro Pataki by the look of it. Bozic just sitting behind Pataki. Pataki sitting pretty. In fact, he's got the swap places. Bozic and then Pataki, then Ventoso at that particular point. Has Mark Cavendish made it into this group? No. It's not looking that way. On the far left-hand side is Danilo Di Luca. Danilo Honda looks over his shoulder. De Luca has to check and go around the outside. Honda doesn't quite know where everybody was. Or certainly put the cat amongst the pigeons, that. And a drive for the line now. And who has come around the outside? Could have been De Luca, could have been Rodriguez. It's difficult to tell. It's a little bit of an uphill finish. We won't see it until we get a good shot right at the front here. Driving for the line, it's not going to make it though because Alessandro Pataki is coming through the middle. But this time Ventoso goes around the outside. Oh, still more sprinting coming. Pataki drives on the left-hand side, Ventoso on the right. And I think Ventoso takes that ahead of Alessandro Pataki, who just simply ran out of steam. That was a great finish by Francisco Ventoso. He kept his powder dry for as long as possible. And in the end, Alessandro Pataki had run out of steam. Nowhere to go in the end. Well, that's a big scalp for Ventoso because we've seen how fast Alessandro Pataki is going, and he's raised the end of his tether here. Great win for Ventoso. Look, there he is on the floor, absolutely shattered. I am not surprised. That was one hell of a last 5 kilometres, Sean.
Yes, what a spectacular final, and you know, just so much attack, and you know, just riders, some of them going for attacks which you could, you know, really read that it wasn't going to happen, but you know, some of them were very aggressive. Pataki, it looked like that he was going to take it, but in the final meters he seemed to have problems just keeping the pedals turning, because 5-7 meters of the line he seemed to stop pedaling altogether.
we'll see a slow motion very shortly. But as you saw it coming into the last kilometre or so, the big sprinters who are still in the group, here we are. Ventoso's leading it out here. And Pataki tries to come past him. And I just think he knows he can't do it. I just think he knows. Or maybe there's a mechanical. Let's have a look, close up. Here he is, Ventoso is leading it out. Pataki comes around him to your left as we're looking at it. Here comes Pataki driving for the line. Let's watch the bike. It just seems to stop pedaling for some reason. Didn't get a good shot of it. Of course, we see Ventoso. Very interesting finish. Be interested to get a bit more information of that as soon as we can. There is Alessandro Pataki. Well, we're not getting the sound from that, unfortunately. Riders still coming in. Your assessment there, Sean, problem for him, or is he just run out of legs?
No, I don't think if you run out of legs, you'd still keep standing on the pedals and you just, you know, give it everything to get to the line. But Pataki stopped pedaling. It looked, you know, there was a mechanical problem, but it didn't look weak. The gear was moving, that the gear was hopping or anything. But there was certainly some problem there because you don't stop pedaling the final 5 meters before the line. And I think at the time he did stop pedaling, he was just, you know, equal with Ventoso.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Or maybe a fraction ahead.
Very strange. We hope we get an overhead shot of that. That would be very useful. If the director has a good look at that in a minute. Well, it was extremely clever. Sprinting by Ventoso, managed to stay there all the time. Pataki comes out of the wheel, tries to go around him and then stops. Just meters before the line. Ferrari, I think it was, who took third for Androni. But it was just one attack after another in the last 5 kilometers or so, just being reeled back in little by little. Here we are. Danilo Di Luca passed close to the line on the far right hand side, then Pataki. No, that's really odd. He just stopped. It's quite clear then, he just stopped. I don't think there's a problem with the bike. He might not like me for saying that, and he may have a different opinion when he speaks to the press, but it looked to me like he stopped pedaling, and that was it. Roberto Ferrari third, Danilo Di Luca fourth. Great result for Apollaiano again. Here we go, Ventoso. Pataki's behind him, has no problem. Is there a problem with the bike? Nope. Why, oh why, oh why? You seen it another 2 times now, Sean? 2 or 3 times? What do you think?
Well, it's difficult to understand the tactic of Pataki there because you know, he was very much in contention to just keep the head down, keep on pedaling, and I reckon he could have taken the stage. Did he start getting cramps? We see him taking off his shoes very quickly, unfastening his shoes. Maybe he was, you know, cramping up, and you know, the final run in here for Pataki, it is a difficult one. Maybe he had just given it too much, and that final 5-10 meters was just that little bit too much for him.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out what Alessandro Pataki's reasons for that are, but it looks to me as though he's just stopped pedaling. And Ventoso takes the win here in Fiuggi for Movistar.